Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Municipal Safety Meeting this evening, chaired by myself, joined by Councilors Gamache, Gould, O'Neill, and Rosignol. We have one item on the agenda this evening. It is a draft ordinance regarding car carrier by motor vehicle. Before us this evening, we also have joining us this evening is Representative Tom Walsh, and I do believe Representative Sally Kerins is en route. We appreciate that. And given that this matter was referred to committee by Councilor Gamache, I am going to defer to Councilor Gamache to present the matter. Thank you.
Yes, to bring back a little history on this, 2 years ago, well, yeah, 2 years ago, there was a public hearing concerning the state of Route 114 and the safety issues that were brought about. And to piggyback on some of those safety issues, the state has taken its due diligence to start trying to improve the traffic flows on 114. This is basically another problem that we have had not only on 114 but Route 1 itself, as the council is aware of it. What we have is we have car carriers parking on Route 1. They're parking in the breakdown lane. On Route 114, they're parking in the middle of the street, in the medium, you know, in the crossover lane, if that's what you want to call it. And they're not only doing this during the day, but they're also doing it at night. So I brought that to the attention, and everybody says, well, you know, how are we going to go about it? So I contacted the city solicitor, and he said, you can make an ordinance. And that's what we wanted to do. And I've been dealing with State Representative Walsh, who was more or less taking the lead at the state level, because those two are state highways. I will say that this is a situation that's not just unique to Peabody. It's unique to every other car dealership, whether it be in Peabody, Danvers, or wherever they may be that has frontage on a state highway. So what I would really hope to do is create an ordinance that would fine the car carrier itself. I spoke to the solicitor, and he stated that you can't really fine the business owner that they're delivering it to, because they're a contract or whatever to them. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to come up with an ordinance that would put some teeth into them stopping doing this. And I did speak to Solicitor Kahn, and due to the magnitude of the safety issues that I think are warranted, I asked them if we could do a $1,000 fine. And $300 is not going to sway anybody about stopping this. I mean, that's most of our ordinance. Most of our fines are $300 within the city ordinances. And the reason why I asked Mr. Kahn was because I wanted to raise it. He says you can do whatever you want. So that's where we're at right now. I would, if I may, to the chair, ask that Mr. Walsh give another briefing on this matter, see where we're at with the state, and then try to brainstorm as to which way we're going to go with this, how the ordinance should be written. But it's also something that we have to make sure that the police department gives us the due diligence when they receive a phone call like this, that it's expedited, so that we can make sure that there's a police report on file. Anybody calling up and saying that there's a violation, we need to have it documented. So we need the police department to give us the benefit and say, let's get there quickly, because this is a safety issue that's got to be dealt with. Now, we're dealing with state police and we're dealing with local police, but my recollection would be to make sure that we have a report on file, whether it be state police or Peabody police. I think the Peabody police would be the easiest thing to do, because the state troopers have got to come out of Danvers. So I'll leave it to Mr. Walsh, if I may, through the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gamache. Representative Walsh, would you like to come up to the podium and address this matter for us? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee, councilors. Nice to see everybody. This is an issue that I've had conversations with Councilor Gamache about. Many of you, certainly the ward councilors, Councilors Daigle and Peach, are affected probably as greatly as Councilor Gamache. 3, 4, and 5 have pieces of Route 114. And Representative Kern, Senator Lovely, and I have been trying to deal with this at the state level as well. But my conversations with Councilor Gamache, I kind of drafted a little bit of language that I suggested he take to your city solicitor to start the process, look at it, see what he thought would be enforceable. Certainly that it would make sure that it is in line with the mass regulations and any laws that pertain to it. Just so you know, a little bit frustrating because we've all seen the car carriers in the middle of the street. And the question has been, well, how do we enforce it? I'm a little bit surprised by that because I guarantee you, if I or any one of you parked our car in the middle of Route 114 and walked away over to any dealership, it would be towed in seconds. So I think they've gotten a lot of leeway, and that needs to be corrected. I think an ordinance is a great first step, and I think that we can back that up at the state level. We've filed legislation that would prohibit car carriers from offloading on any state highway. As Councilor Gamache stated, it's not just the city of Peabody or the town of Danvers that has this problem. If you come down Route 1 and try to get onto Salem Street, quite often the dealerships along that stretch have their car carriers out on the main highway offloading. And, it surprises me a lot, too, given the last couple of years, their inventory has been significantly lower than usual, so there should be room on these lots. And when they're designed, they should have designed it with room on the lot to offload. So with that, I'm happy to work with you in the months ahead, but I really do think that once you decide what you want for fines and whatnot, that you really need the advice of your city solicitor. And we will continue to work at the state level trying to push the legislation that we've recently filed.
Thank you, Representative Walsh. Representative Kerins, would you like to also come up and address this matter as the representative for certainly a portion of Danvers that this affects widely as well?
Indeed.
Yeah, so if you could.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I look like I just came off a car carrier because I was looking for parking. This happened just the other day. I was coming down 114, saw the car carrier lining up in the Danvers end. So as Representative Walsh said, we're keenly aware, and the legislation that he referenced would be, we think, a helpful tool, and we just are hopeful that we can make headway. And it's, I guess, constant vigilance, and when they make application, to be making them aware. You know that you cannot have your carriers parked in the middle of the road. So yeah, just kind of continuing to, the hearing process is early. We just are getting bills assigned now to their committees. And it will be, I don't know, a couple of weeks before we start seeing hearings on various bills. I take it you all know that Representative Walsh has been named chair of the Committee of Bills in the third reading, which is kind of a big deal. So I'm thinking that it'll be a couple of weeks before the hearings commence, and then at that time we would want something, from the City Council indicating your support for the legislation, because this is a very real issue in for the city. We good, Madam Chair?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
I'll open it up to the councilors on the committee. Councilor O'Neill?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I saw Councilor Gamache's hand was up. Okay, thank you. I just had a general, because it's probably not a fair. First of all, I think it's commendable to try to tackle this problem. It's by everyone driving on there. It's just awful. My question was, and it may be not be able to be answered by anyone here in attendance at this meeting, but it's my understanding that state law actually already doesn't allow or prohibits any parking on state highway. So part of that is just more of I think that's the case, but then it's also why is it not being enforced now? So that's more just rhetorical, but I also, I certainly am in favor of putting some money on this, or for punishment. $1,000 is nothing to sniff at, especially if it's the people. But like I said, I just don't want to create something that is already in place that isn't being enforced for whatever reason. Thank you.
Councilor Gamache?
I would like to ask State Representative Walsh if he has a comment concerning this ordinance that we're about to propose in the law that you're about to propose at the state level would piggyback what Councilor O'Neill just stated as far as the non-parking and stuff like that. Have you looked at that aspect?
We looked at that aspect, Councilor, when you brought forth an issue with a dealer up on Route 1. And we checked with the state police at the time, and there was some discussion about having a certain amount of time in a breakdown lane. So it wasn't specifically prohibited. So I think they had a certain amount of, maybe it was 15, 20 minutes, whatever that is. I'd have to go back and look at it. But I think there was a feeling that it really was not enforceable and that we needed something that was more stringent.
Thank you. If I may, do I still have the floor?
Yes.
Thank you. The other issue I had is, now maybe you can answer this, Mr. Walsh, or somebody else that's familiar with it. If the state enacts an ordinance that is not as strict, not as, say, doesn't carry the $1,000 fine that I'd like to see in the city of Peabody, which jurisdiction and which law would carry on a state highway? Would it be the local ordinance or would it be the state law?
I'm not sure. I think that your ordinance would be enforceable.
Okay.
And I would check with your city solicitor, but I'm
He's
pretty sure.
right here. I'm going to ask him if I...
How's that handled?
Yeah, pretty good.
Great timing, Don. So he probably could answer that better than I can.
I just don't want to see us put in an ordinance, then the state comes down with a state law that supersedes our ordinance, and whether or not we have jurisdiction on state highway property. That's my only question.
Okay, through the chair, to you, Councilor Gamache. The timing is probably good because as we have just filed this legislation and it will go to committee and there will be a public hearing and there will probably be several iterations of the bill before it would finally be adopted, maybe we can make it so that it matches or mirrors the language in your ordinance. So that's a possibility as well.
Thank you, Representative Walsh.
Could I ask City Solicitor Khan just to see if he's got a...
Yes. Attorney Khan, are you up to speed? I know you just walked in. Are you up to speed on what the question is before you?
I caught a little bit of it, but if you could just give me the full question, Councilor Gamache.
Yes. We are in the process of creating an ordinance to stop car carriers from unloading vehicles in the city of Peabody in breakdown lanes and medium lanes, the center lanes like 114 has. Representative Walsh is proposing a bill at the state level to do the same thing. So our ordinance, as I'd like it to be written, would carry a $1,000 fine for each offense to the car carrier, whoever that may be. My question is we adopt this ordinance in April, and June, July, August, the state comes down with a state law. Would that supersede our ordinance based upon our fine levels and whatever they have determined as a fine level?
If there was a direct conflict between your ordinance and the state law, the state statute would trump your ordinance. So if you had a $1,000 a day fine and they legislated on the same issue and they set a $300 a day fine, then the state law would prevail.
Okay. So that's something that would have to work with our state representatives to try to come up with a decent fine. Okay.
Yeah, I think the thing to do is if there's a bill that's going forward through the general court, you might want to, keep in touch with Representative Walsh and even, attend the hearings and weigh in on the bill.
Well, that's what I was worried about, whether or not, you know, a $1,000 fine in our ordinance and the state comes up with a $500 fine, they're state highway properties, it kind of moots the point of our ordinance at a $1,000 level. It doesn't take away the fact that they're violating an ordinance or a law, but I'd like to see them hit, you know, so that they don't do it again, because some of these car carriers are doing it frequently. And, you know,
It would depend on, if the state law is imminent, you might want to hold back a little bit on your ordinance to see if you think it's going to pass in the near term.
I think that it would give the state legislature a little boost to see that there are cities and towns that are trying to be proactive and create some ordinances to prevent this. They would in turn be able to say, look, at some of the cities and towns have this problem and it's a serious problem, so therefore it might make it a little easier for the legislature to act on it quicker. That's my whole goal here, is to get something enacted as quick as possible.
Yep, I understand.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gamache. Councilor Rossignol?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can't agree more with Councilor Gamache. I think this is important to move forward with. We're talking about public safety. We heard time and time again about the issues on 114, and this is a major one. The breakdown lane on Route 1 is just for that. It's for broken down cars. If there's a car that is starting to break down and it can't get into the breakdown lane, which is what the lane is intended for, because there's a car carrier there unloading cars for over an hour at sometimes. This is an absolute public safety issue that needs to be addressed. And to Councilor Gamache's point earlier regarding fines, to me, I think we do need to put a dollar amount on this. I think $1,000 is appropriate. And if the state does come with a lesser fine, we can always say up to. So at least there's something on the books that we're looking to make this a serious matter and really looking to act on it. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. If there are no other, Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Councilor Gamache, for pushing this forward. You know, obviously we're focusing really on 114 and Route 1. My question, I don't know if Representative Walsh could answer this, but looking at this language, you know, it's for state highway, state road, or land maintained by Mass Department of Transportation. So I just want to clarify that would be like 114, Route 1, not necessarily like Route 35, which the state doesn't maintain, because we do have a car dealership on Margin Street that I don't think actually has the ability, because they've been there so long, they're kind of grandfathered in to offload, and they do offload every other week on Margin Street.
If I might, thank you, Councilor. Interesting question, but Route 35 is a little bit more unique because the city also maintains that road and they plow it. So it's one of those gray areas. It's not technically a state road. Like, you know, the intent of this is really the Route 1s, 114, 128, although you don't see it there. But yeah, your question is right, that we're looking at the roads that are primarily state roads. Route 35, although it has a state designation, is primarily maintained through the city.
Thank you, Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Representative. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't doing, you know, any unintended consequences, because we do have quote-unquote state roads, especially in Ward 3, that have car dealerships on them. And I know we're focusing really on these highway-type roads and not, you know, Margin Street. So thank you.
Representative Walsh.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would also remind you that this is an ordinance that's before the City Council, and it's really up to you to decide how you want to structure the language. It was really through conversations with Councilor Gamache that I came up with a little bit of language for you to take and consider and talk with your city solicitor. So nothing here is etched in stone. It's really up to you. So if you want to be more specific and specifically mention Route 35, you have that option. So thank you.
Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Walsh, would you be able to provide us with the bill number? I know you said the legislation's been filed, so that we can follow along in the House.
Yes, it hasn't been assigned a number yet. Once it does, I will make sure that, or we will make sure that you have that information, because it would be very helpful for us to have some type of communication from the city council in support of the legislation as it moves forward. So absolutely. Thank you.
You all set, Council Peach? If no other councils have any remarks, I'd like to thank Representative Walsh and Kerins for their effort in this regard, because it is certainly something that is needed, not only in Peabody, as has been explained, but across the state, which has prompted a bill to be filed. And I really don't see any downside for us to move forward, as it will only give our representatives a strengthening of their effort in the bill that they have forward, that the town that they represent is asking them to take care of this, and we have for the past couple years. So, and the fact that we have our own state representative, Representative Walsh, in the area of the third reading, I think to have a document, an ordinance of his own city showing what we are doing here, I would advocate that we move forward, and if we need to bring it back to lessen the fine, if the state doesn't agree with that number, I think we jump off that bridge when we get to it. But I think moving forward with this is the right thing to do. It's very dangerous, and we're taking action. I think we should keep moving this forward, Councilor Gamache.
Yes, thank you. In reference to Councilor Peach's suggestion, we can always add to this ordinance in all local public ways within the city of Peabody. And that would cover just about anywhere that a car carrier would drop off, whether it be Route 35, whether it be Forest Street. I mean, we can add that in that language that would allow for local streets as well.
Councilor Peach?
Through the chair, to Councilor Gamache, I wouldn't want to add that. I think we have, especially in the older parts of the city, we have a lot of dealerships that have been there for a very long time. The way that they're operating currently has not caused issue. I can speak to the dealerships that are in my ward. What I really wanted was to make sure there was no unintended consequences with, things that are technically state roads but are not maintained by the state. That we're operating without issue right now. It's not really a safety hazard. So I wanted to make sure that wasn't included. So I wouldn't want to include those streets.
And that is the reason why, if I may, wanted to see if you wanted to add those. That's fine. I just wanted to open up to the rest of the council that we have the ability to include certain things, and if you want to leave this out, and if we have to address it another time or another day, if we have problems within local streets and stuff like that, we can do that. But I'd like to, try to get this sent to legal for a draft as was submitted tonight. And the first thing would be to each offense will be a $1,000 fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gamache. This as written, does that capture Councilor Peach's concerns? Does it as written that it won't? Okay, because I agree with you. That's good forward thinking on your part. So, okay, very good. So if you want to move forward with the motion?
Yeah, I would move to approve as submitted the draft of the ordinance that no common carrier by motor vehicle and/or contract carrier by motor vehicle, car carrier, trailer, car hauler, or auto transport trailer as defined in Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 159B, Section 2, shall load or offload any vehicles for delivery of transportation on any state highway, state road, and land maintained by the Massachusetts Department of Transportation within the limits of the city of Peabody, Massachusetts. Specifically, no car carrier trailer or auto transport trailer shall park in clearly defined marked lanes known as breakdown lanes and center lanes for the purpose of loading or offloading motor vehicles, with the fine for each offense $1,000. So moved.
You heard the motion by Councilor Gamache. Roll call on the motion.
Councilors Gamache,
Yes.
Gould, O'Neill,
Yes.
Rossignol,
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. And lastly, Representative Walsh?
Thank you. I just wanted to say thanks for inviting us, but also remind everybody that Representative Kearns is a member of the Transportation Committee, so that will hopefully help us as we move the bill forward.
Excellent, a
Just
one-two punch we have
a one-two
going on
punch,
here
yeah.
at Peabody.
And thank
All
you,
right.
thank you for the pressure.
All
So-
right, you got it. Thank you both very much for joining us this evening. Thank you, Attorney Khan, for your assistance this evening. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote.
One, two, one.
Good evening. I'd like to call this evening's Legal Affairs Committee meeting to order. With us tonight are Legal Affairs Committee members McGinn, Melville, Peach, and Turco. Also joining us are Councilors Daigle, Council President Welton, Councilor Manning Martin, Councilor Gould, Councilor Rossignol, Councilor Gamache. We have a couple of items on tonight's agenda. The first item is easement for Bartholomew Street layout. And before we start, can I get a motion to approve a receipt of communication 8E, please?
So moved.
On the motion, all in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Thank you, Councilman McGinn. Fairly straightforward, but I did want to give an opportunity for Attorney Jack Kelty to come up and give an overview of this. This is an item that has been, unfortunately, with Legal Affairs Committee for far too long. It was an oversight on my part, but we certainly want to discuss it this evening. As I just mentioned, Communication 80, that's a memo from City Solicitor Don Kahn, who talked about it and gave us his views on it. But I did want to have Attorney Kelty come up and give us, a brief overview of the matter. Attorney Kelty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John Kelty, 40 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass. For the applicant. We have provided an easement that we have asked that the city, through its mayor, that the city council authorized the mayor to sign an easement. This is an easement where some years ago, when Bartholomew Street was being realigned and repaved and widened, it resulted in a small part of the roadway being on private land owned at that time by the Polino family and one of the senior members, and subsequent is now owned by DUC Residential, which is Paul DiBiase, and we submitted this a fair amount of time ago, and we're hopeful that the city would recommend that the mayor be allowed to sign the easement, and that we would record it at the registry of deeds. And the reason that this is an issue, which it is seldom an issue, although it occurs a lot. We have a lot of people's in some of the tighter areas of the community where their houses are in the public layout, their porch, their sheds and things like that are on public land. In this instance, this is public land encroaching upon, the roadway is actually encroaching upon private land. In particular, it's not the pavement, it's the roadway layout. And as such, it must need show on plans because they're at the land court. Registered land is much more accurate, precise, and detailed than ordinary form of ownership of land. And as such, this encroachment showed on a plan that we wanted to have recorded. And so we need to resolve that issue either by removing the pavement and disrupting Bartholomew Street, or leaving it there as it has been for so many years, and allow the mayor to sign the easement. So in a nutshell, that's it. Nutshell.
Thank you, Attorney Kelty. And I should note, City Solicitor Don Kahn is here if anyone has any additional questions. And just to, before I open up to the committee, did want to note that, City Solicitor Kahn's memo does state the easement is necessary due to an error in the plans. And a portion of the street is on the owner's property, and easement grants the city to the right to maintain and repair the road. So summary is there's no issue actually authorizing the mayor, but at this time I'll open it up to any questions or comments from committee members. Any other councilors? At this time I'll entertain a motion. Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Be it ordered by the Peabody City Council to authorize Mayor Edward Betancourt to execute the grants of easement with the Peabody Living LLC, a limited liability company, 749 Lowell Street, the owners of certain property shown as 234 Bartholomew Street, containing 42,429 square feet of land on a plan entitled Subdivision Plan of Eastern Land Survey Associates Incorporated, dated March 20th, 1986, which plan is recorded at the Essex South District Registry of Deeds, Land Registration Office, as Land Court Plan 30475-N, parentheses, the plan, for the right and easement to pass, repass over, and on, have access to, construct, maintain, and repair certain area shown as roadway easement over Lot 73 for the benefit of the City of Peabody, as shown on plan entitled Subdivision Plan of Land located in Peabody, Massachusetts, dated January 19th, 2018, and recorded at the Essex South District Registry of Deeds, Land Registration Office as Plan 30475N, parentheses, the subdivision plan. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Committee members, you've heard the motion. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Turco,
Yes.
Peach. Yes. Melville,
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, councilors.
Thank you, Mr. Kelty. Appreciate your patience with us. Thank you. The next item on tonight's agenda is entitled the Responsible Employer Ordinance. You all have received the proposed wording. I did want to comment that we have received a memo previously. It's in your package from City Solicitor Don Kahn, where from a legal perspective, he saw no particular issues, and strictly from a legal standpoint, that there's nothing illegal. That's what he was tasked with. I'll ask him to come up and provide some brief commentary if he would. And then I do want to comment that there's a couple items that I think we want to further vet as a committee regarding this, involving procurement, and just have a broader discussion on that. So I just wanted to give that kind of brief overview before I ask Solicitor Kahn to speak. Welcome, Solicitor Kahn.
Thank you very much for your time this evening. The proposed ordinance is a fairly comprehensive ordinance. It impacted numerous statutes of the Commonwealth, so in researching this, I cross-checked the ordinance against the statutes to make sure that there was nothing that would prevent you from adopting this ordinance if you wanted to. It's my opinion that you could adopt it in whole. You could adopt parts of this if you like them. You could, decide not to adopt anything, but there would be no legal problem that I could see relative to the ordinance in terms of its adoption.
Thank you, Attorney Kahn. Do any committee members have any questions or comments at this time? Councilor Turco?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to say thank you to Don. You're right, it's a lengthy ordinance, so you actually summarized it in your bullet points 1 through 8 pretty clearly, and I think everybody's read them. But just for a little background, this was given to, this proposed ordinance was presented to Councilor Gamache and myself roughly a year ago, maybe a bit more. And at the time that I moved this forward, I inadvertently, I believe, said it was a co-motion with Councilor Gould. I did check with Councilor Gould, and he was okay with co-motioning that. So it would actually be a tri-motion at this point with the three. I understand that the ordinance being lengthy, there may be portions that we would like to remove or pare down. Obviously I'm in full support of the motion, and basically, essentially, all it says is that the City of Peabody is going to protect taxpayer money. In short, we are obligated to pay prevailing wage on any project, so there's no additional cost. The ordinance just guarantees that the work would be supplied by apprenticeship programs that are certified through the Department of Labor. And, probably as most of you might think when you first read it, that, hey, this is, this is just for labor unions. And it was the first question that I asked, as a 30-year union member, is this solely for the benefit of labor? And it's not. It's there are certified apprenticeship programs through vocational programs, vocational schools. Private companies have their employees go through these certified labor programs, and they're multi-year programs, as Councilor Gamache can attest. I think Councilor Gould's experience, with GE dealing with labor. These programs are pretty thorough and guarantee that the city of Peabody receives the best workmanship for its dollar. Prevailing wage is what it is. It's largely based on the union wage. So, again, there's no additional cost. In fact, wage theft, as this is called, what happens sometimes when cities and towns contract out for work, we contract, or the city contracts with a well-known, respectable general contractor, and sometimes subcontractors come in, and those subcontractors, they can either make a deal with employees where they get a portion of that prevailing wage and some is given back. It's estimated that $1 billion a year is lost through wage theft, where smaller subcontractors hire not so qualified employees to do work at a cheaper rate, yet take the prevailing wage. So it's in an effort to protect that and make sure that the taxpayer money is utilized and we're getting qualified workmanship on the job. So far, I believe it's 21 cities and towns have adopted similar, if not identical. The Medford ordinance is identical to this with no changes. Some have adopted pared-down versions. Lynn, Somerville, I can't name all the cities, but it's 21 cities and towns throughout the Commonwealth. So I would support this. I understand that there's maybe some further questions, and we did receive an email earlier today asking that, who is it, forgive me, that would like to speak? Dan, I'm sorry? Mike Gingras and Dan, what's the purchaser's name? Dan Doucette.
Yeah, I think Councilor Turco, Dan Doucette from purchasing perspective and Mike Gingras from a financial perspective, I think wanted to provide at least some input or whatnot, I think is the understanding.
So, I understand. I'm willing to hear that. That was my intent with bringing this forward and referring it to Attorney Khan. I was a little shocked to get that request 4 hours before tonight's meeting when, it's been a year that it's been out there. But regardless, I'm okay with that. I'd like to make sure that this is done right and at the benefit of the residents of Peabody. So, but what I disagree with is I don't think that we need to move this out of legal. I think it remains a legal issue, a legal affairs issue, and I would recommend that we leave it in committee here. In the future, you maybe, Mr. Chairman, you set up a meeting and ask Mr. Gingrich if he'd like to. We don't know that there's any financial bearing at this point. We don't have the information. So it's a ordinance that falls under legal affairs, and I just assume leave it in legal affairs, have a future meeting with the proposed employees that the mayor mentioned, and work from there.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. And there's certainly no motion to move it out of committee. We don't have a motion on the floor yet, but it would be my intent to keep this matter in committee, given what we're looking at to evaluate. But I think that's the most prudent way. We don't have any information that would make it go to another committee, and I don't want to complicate things, but that may change. But at this point in time, I think we should keep it in committee. But I certainly want to open it up to other committee members and other councils if they have any comments. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick comment. I wanted to say that I concur with Councilor Turco. There's no need to move this to finance. There's no request for an appropriation. I think that we can deal with the additional inputs from the Director of Finance and Purchasing Agent Doucette. We can handle that in legal affairs. So that would be my thought on that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. Any other councilors? Councilor Gamache?
Although I'm not on this committee, I just want to mention the fact that for a lot of the councilors who may not be familiar with, we have had companies doing work for the city of Peabody that still qualify under what we're trying to do here, is make them apprenticeship programs and licensed employees. And it's just basically protecting the educational value of the employee that the city's hiring. So that's one of the most important things that we're trying to get through here. And I welcome to the information that Dan and Mike are going to give us, because it enlightens us to say which we may be able to take some of this out and make everything fine. So thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Councilor Gamache. Any other councilors? And I want to apologize. Certainly, I was notified at the same time you folks that there was some additional vetting that needed to be done on the city side. So I apologize for that. I'd like to make sure when we have an agenda item, if you will, that we're ready to go. But certainly, we all want to make sure we're making the right decisions. So I think at this point in time, I'd entertain a motion to keep this matter in committee, and certainly request all relevant department heads who need to comment on that, including Finance Director Mike Gingras, Mayor Betancourt, and Purchasing Agent Dan Doucette. I'll entertain that motion, please.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman McGinn. On the motion, all in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Thank you, Don. Thank you, Council. Last item on tonight's agenda is a motion that was made by Councilor Rossignol to refer an ordinance change regarding limitation of sign size for lawns to the Legal Affairs Committee. If it's okay with committee members, as this is a motion put forth by Councilor Rossignol, I thought he'd be best to speak to it. There's a memo or a correspondence from Councilor Rossignol in the package, but if no one has any opposition, I think it makes sense to have Councilor Rossignol give us his, request for the committee members to consider. Councilor Rossignol.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as you see in your packet, Attorney Khan sent us his legal opinion regarding the proposed idea to limit lawn signs as far as size goes. If you look through the statutes, we are unable to ordinance content or duration for any sign. The only thing that we can control via ordinance is size. If you drive through Revere or if you drive through Lynn during an election season, you'll see more or less billboards as big as the eye can see on some of the most insane places you can imagine. Before I got on the council, when I was on the school committee, the council at the time were up to their necks in billboards and where they go and how high and how much content. And there was a lot of debate and there was a lot of legal ramifications. Here, with lawn signs, they can go anywhere. They can be any size. They could be of any structure. So I think that in itself is an issue. So if you have a resident that's, let's say, in their 70s or 80s, and they allow me to put up a monstrosity of a lawn sign, and I do, and I didn't put it up correctly, and it now goes airborne, then now the homeowner is liable because it's on their property. So it's also a safety risk. So those are the reasons behind my thought process. Obviously, I was not going to draft specific language, because if it's not the will of the subcommittee to even move forward with this, then drafting specific language I thought would be a moot point. So the first thing I would ask the Legal Affairs Subcommittee is whether there's an appetite for a limitation of the size and only the size of lawn signs, and then from there draft an ordinance to specify. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Rossignol. Do any committee members have any questions or comments? Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question for Attorney Khan. Mr. Khan, the opinion that you provided in the first paragraph, I'm getting a different, I think a different read from Councilor Rossignol. The last sentence in the first paragraph says, in short answer, the city council cannot place size restrictions specifically on political signs and cannot restrict the period in which such signs are displayed. So I'm a little confused because I think Councilor Rossignol's read of this is that we are able to do that, but in reading your opinion.
Yeah, actually, not to interrupt Councilor McGinn, but I had actually asked Assistant City Solicitor Lashway to do this opinion for me, so she was the author of the opinion, not myself.
I see. Sorry, I see that. I see that in the header section there, so that's an oversight.
I'm certainly happy before the next meeting of the committee to return and address the issue of regulation of size of signs.
I guess before we, well, I guess we, Councilor Rossignol, Mr. Chairman, through you to Councilor Rossignol, it wasn't really your intent to maybe completely finish this tonight. It sounds like you wanted to just see what the will of the committee was, but did you, in reading this opinion from the Assistant City Solicitor, how did you read that sentence? How did you?
Well, through conversations with Don Kahn and through, if you look at previous language, it dealt more with content and with duration. So that was my interpretation, was those are the two things that we could not limit.
And I think the discussion here, Councilor McGinn, is case law relative to regulation of content and doesn't really address cases involving regulation of size.
Okay, but when you read that statement, it does specifically, the attempt here to summarize the case law, would you agree with me that
I agree that the statement indicates that you can't regulate content or size,
okay,
yes.
Thank you, so you understand my confusion.
I do.
Okay, thank you, Attorney Khan. So if we can get some clarification on that, that would be, that would be
I
great.
certainly will do that, and I apologize to the committee that this issue is not more clearly spelled out, but we'll address that.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. Councilor Melville?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate and I hear during election time, folks will talk about signage and whatnot. I'm not really comfortable with regulating speech unless we have really specific and can point to folks that are coming before us that have issues with it. And I understand, I don't, if we want to follow up on what we could actually regulate, I don't want to stand in the way of the committee for that, but even if we started to identify signs, I'm not really sure this is something that rises to the need of regulation at this point. I don't disagree that when driving around you can see some of these and they are unsightly. However, I would actually leave that up to the voters. If you're somebody that doesn't like big signs all over your city or town, and a voter says, well, that's not somebody I'm going to support, my experience in politics says that the candidates are going to change the size of their signs. They're going to get the message. It's just for me at this point, I look forward for an educational purpose to finding out if you can regulate sizes of signs, but this is not something I'm really comfortable moving forward on unless we can get, if there's something more specific that I deem would rise to the level of regulation. But that's just my point of view. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Melville. Any other councils? One thing I just want to point out,
there's a few, according to the memo from Ms. Lashway, it did at the end talk about, like, certainly content would not be something that we should try to do. There are some cities that have enacted quite a bit of, I guess I'll call it a, very involved ordinance. They define a political sign, and it gets, really into the nitty-gritty, because that's what you'd want. We want to make sure that, okay, is it a local or is it state? Or if someone wants to put up a sign that, against a certain, national political person who wants to get involved with that. And they also specifically talk about size limitation, traffic hazard. It gets very involved. So, I'm certainly interested to hear more about this, and I don't think anyone wants to start getting into trying to, and that's not been discussed tonight, any kind of free speech, limitation. It's more about size, but certainly I'm more than happy to continue the discussion to see if there is something that should be done. But certainly no one at this point in time has approached me regarding size of political signs and issues with it. So anyways, I just want to add those comments. What is the will of the committee at this time?
Oh, you're not on the committee. Okay.
Councilor Peach?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I'd ask that we leave this in committee and receive the confirmation of what can be regulated for educational purposes from City Solicitor Khan.
Thank you, Councilor Peach. You've heard the motion. On the motion, all in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Thank you. I'll now entertain a motion to adjourn. On the motion, all in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Good evening, councilors. We are going to meet as a committee of the whole, and we're going to break into executive session to discuss a settlement for extreme packing, 7 Webster Street, Unit F. At this time, I would now entertain a motion to adjourn into executive session downstairs, and we will be returning shortly thereafter. Oh, we're going downstairs. So can I get a
moved,
motion?
Mr. President.
All right, you heard the motion. On the motion, roll call vote.
Councilors Turco. Yes. Daigle. O'Neill.
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Gould. Rozignol.
Yes.
Gamache. Melville.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Welcome back from executive session, councilors. I'll now entertain a motion to adjourn the
Move,
committee of
Mr.
the whole.
President.
Thank you, Councilor Gould. Councilors, you've heard the motion. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor? Any, roll call vote, excuse me.
Councilors Turco, Daigle, O'Neill,
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Manning Martin, Gould, Rozignol, Gamache, Melville,
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Councilors, we are adjourned from the committee of the whole. Good evening. The City Council will convene on Thursday, February 23rd, to hold a regular meeting at 7:30 p.m. for the purpose of discussing any and all business via in-person and remote participation in accordance with Chapter 40A of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 20A, B, and C of the Acts of 2021, signed into law by Governor Baker on June 16th, 2021. Alternative public access to this meeting shall be provided in the following manner. 1, this meeting is being televised live by Peabody Access Television on Cable Channel 9. 2, real-time public comment during public hearings can be addressed to the Peabody City Council using the Zoom virtual meeting software for remote access. Users may view the meeting and make a comment or question to the chair via the audio option. Please visit www.peabody-ma.gov for Zoom information. This meeting is being taped by Peabody Access Television and is also being recorded by the City Council stenographer. Let's all rise for a moment of silence. Now please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Councilor Gould. Councilors, you've heard the motion from Councilor Gould. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. All right. We're first going to move into entertainment license hearings this evening. The clerk will read the notice for La Siesta Restaurant, Inc., 3 Main Street.
Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, February 23rd, 2023, at 7:30 p.m. in the Frank L. Wigan Auditorium, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., and remotely via Zoom on the application from La Siesta Restaurant, Inc., 3 Main Street, Peabody, Mass., requesting an entertainment license for the use of non-live entertainment, specifically television, digital, internet music, and radio, and live entertainment, specifically live music, at said 3 Main Street, Peabody, Mass., For remote participation using the Zoom platform, please visit www.peabody-ma.gov under calendar on the homepage or contact the City Clerk's office. Peabody City Council, Councilor Craig S. Welton, City Council President.
Thank you, Clerk Danforth. Petitioner, could you please provide your name and address for the record and tell us what you'd like to do?
Christopher Vasquez at La Siesta Restaurante at 3 Main Street, Peabody. And I'm here for the apply for entertainment license for the restaurant.
Great, thank you. Is there anyone here this evening who'd like to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone in favor? Anyone on Zoom? Seeing none. Anyone here this evening who would like to speak against this petition? Anyone on Zoom? Seeing none. I'd like to open it up to my fellow councilors. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've spoken to the applicant, Mr. Vasquez, and I am very supportive of this application. It's pretty straightforward. I'd open it up to other councilors at this time.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. Councilor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. President. Chris, welcome. You're doing a great job. Keep up the good work. It's one of my favorite places to go, as you well know. So,
thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Gould. Any other councilors? Seeing none, Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to close the public hearing.
Councilors, you've heard the motion. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed, it's a vote. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to approve the application from La Siesta Restaurante, Incorporated, 3 Main Street, Peabody, requesting an entertainment license for the use of non-live entertainment, specifically television, digital, internet music, and radio, and live entertainment, specifically live music, at 3 Main Street, Peabody, Mass. In accordance with the application, live music entertainment is non-amplified guitar and vocalist. Live and non-live entertainment hours align with the establishment's hours of operation Sunday through Thursday, 5 p.m. to 9:30 p.m., Friday, 5 p.m. to 10 p.m., and Saturday, 10:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. Councilors, you've heard the motion. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilors Turco.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
O'Neill. Peach.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Gamache. Yes. Melville.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
All right.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Moving on to hearing 4B, entertainment license for Gallo Nero, Peabody, 89 Main Street. The clerk will now read the notice.
Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, February 23rd, 2023, at 7:30 p.m. in the Frank L. Wigan Auditorium, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., and remotely via Zoom on the application from Gallo Nero Peabody, Inc., 89 Main Street, Peabody, Mass., requesting an entertainment license for the use of non-live entertainment, specifically television, CD player, and digital internet radio at said 89 Main Street, Peabody, Mass. For remote participation using the Zoom platform, please visit www.peabody-ma.gov under Calendar on the homepage or contact the City Clerk's office. Peabody City Council, Councilor Craig S. Welton, City Council President.
Thank you, Clerk Danforth. If the petitioner could provide your name and your address for the record and tell us what you'd like to do.
Yes, my name is Davi Sherda. The address of the business is 89 Main Street, Peabody, Massachusetts, and I'm here to apply for a non-live entertainment license for the business.
Thank you. Is there anyone here this evening who'd like to speak in favor of this application? Anyone in favor? Anyone on Zoom? Seeing none, anyone who wants to speak in opposition to this petition? Anyone on Zoom? Seeing none, open it up to our councilors. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've spoken with the applicant, Mr. Sherda. I am supportive of the application. Councilors may have noted in the package there was an issue with a small amount of back taxes owed on personal property, $117.52. The applicant indicated to me that this was owed by the prior business owner. However, I believe he was going to address that today with the collector. Mr. Sherda, were you able to do that today?
I was able to address it, and it was paid today, and I got the receipt. It was right in the transition period, so it was actually my responsibility, but it was the same month I took over, so I must have missed the filings there.
Very good. I'm glad that's resolved. And of course, we have the prior business owner sitting right behind you, so it's harder for you to blame him. Yeah. Very good. So with that issue, with that minor issue resolved, I'm fully supportive of the application. I'd open it up to the councilors at this time.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. Any other councilors like to speak on this matter? Seeing none, Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to close the public hearing.
Councilors, you've heard the motion. On the motion, any discussion? All in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to approve the application from Gallo Nero Peabody, Inc., 89 Main Street, Peabody, Mass., requesting entertainment license for the use of non-live entertainment, specifically television, CD player, and digital internet radio at said 89 Main Street, Peabody, Mass. Non-live entertainment hours to align with the establishment's hours of operation, Monday through Wednesday, 3 p.m. to 9 p.m., Thursday to Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m., and Sunday, 12 p.m. to 10 p.m. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. Councilors, you've heard the motion. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilors Turco,
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Gamache. Yes. Melville.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Thank you, councilors. Before we jump into item 4C, Councilor Melville.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will be recusing myself from the next item, the show cause hearing, as I am the Deputy Executive Director with the Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission, and to ensure that there isn't the appearance of conflict between my position there and my position as a councilor, I'll be recusing myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Melville. And before we jump into item 4C, I'd like to call Attorney Khan. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Fellow councilors, Attorney Khan will be assisting us with the show cause hearing, and Clerk Danforth will now read the notice.
Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, February 23rd, 2023, at 7:30 p.m. in the Frank L. Wigan Auditorium, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass. and remotely via Zoom for the purpose of hearing testimony to determine whether or not there is a violation of Special Permit 2-2022, Condition Number 1, as issued to the Albanian Boston Community, Inc., 26 Holly Street, Peabody, Mass., specifically that the Inspector of Buildings has issued a cease and desist order dated December 28, 2022, stating that alcohol is being served, sold, and consumed on the premises at said 26 Holly Street. Said action could include the suspension or revocation of said special permit or issuance of a penalty under Section 15.5 of the Peabody zoning ordinance. For remote participation using the Zoom platform, please visit www.peabody-ma.gov. Under calendar on the homepage or contact the city clerk's office. Peabody City Council, Councilor Craig S. Welton, City Council President.
Thank you, Clerk Danforth. I'll now turn it over to Attorney Khan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would respectfully suggest that the council open the hearing, hear evidence relative to, from the city relative to whether or not there was a violation, offer the respondent an opportunity to state their position or any evidence that they have, close the public hearing after you've had an opportunity to take all the evidence. After the public hearing is closed, I would suggest that if there is no violation, you don't move on to a discussion of a penalty. If you believe that there was a violation, in my opinion, your options are from most severe to least severe is that you could revoke the special permit, that you could suspend the special permit, that you could impose fines, or that you could take no action. So I would suggest that you vote to open the hearing and then take whatever testimony anybody's ready to offer.
Thank you, Councilor Khan. On that suggestion, is there any discussion or questions from my fellow councilors? Seeing none, can I get a motion to open the public hearing?
Yes.
So moved, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Peach. Councilors, you've heard the motion. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. The public hearing is open.
I think Lieutenant Bonfanti is here to address the alleged violations, Mr. President. Yeah, I just can't call for votes or anything.
Good evening. On December 27, 2022, I received a phone call from Councilor Gould. He was very concerned that at 26 Holly Street that there was drinking and gambling going on in that facility. He was also concerned that they were advertising a Christmas Eve party, and he was concerned that the party could get out of control. It was being advertised. The following day, I received a phone call from the ABCC that said that they had visited that establishment and they were let in. And during their visit, they observed on the left-hand side of the establishment a male patron in the possession of a Bud Light bottle at a table. Investigators also observed a bar measuring approximately 15 feet in length. Investigators investigated a glass door refrigerator located at the bar that contained alcoholic beverage, which was in plain view. Investigators did not observe there to be any alcohol beverages visible behind the bar. However, investigators did observe boxes of empty Heineken bottles on the floor and behind the area. Investigators observed 2 cash registers behind the bar area, and the investigators saw receipts that had Albanian Boston Community Center DBA listed on those receipts of 26 Holly Street, floor 2-1 in Peabody. Investigators also saw receipts of ultra-premium drinks with prices on it. The next day, on the 30th, I visited the establishment, and that's when me and Detective Greenberg, we issued a cease and desist order, and they were reminded that they're not allowed to have alcohol on the premise there. The manager, Mr. Boca, said he understood. He said that he has told people not to bring alcohol in there, but they were doing it.
Any questions for Lieutenant Bonfanti? Thank you, Lieutenant.
Thank you.
And as a point of information for the council, in the special permit that you voted in January of 2022, the first condition of the permit read, "No alcohol to be sold or consumed on the premises." Mr. Kelty, do you have any evidence that you want to put forward?
Thank you, Attorney Khan. For the record, my name is John Kelty. I'm an attorney. I have offices at 40 Lowell Street here in Peabody, Massachusetts, and I'm appearing on behalf of the Albanian Boston Community, Inc. I had appeared in several meetings back in January and February of 2022. With me this evening are, if need be, are Audrey Brichova and Andrei Kume, both of whom had appeared at our meetings at the time that you awarded the license. I have no questions for the officer, nor do I have any questions or cross-examination of any of the parties this evening. My clients are apologetic. They are contrite. They feel that they have probably, at least we hope temporarily, lost the trust of the City Council. When we appeared before the board, I was looking at the minutes of the meeting that were supplied as part of this show cause hearing, and I had suggested that we were not in need of a alcoholic beverage license at that time. I explained to the council at that time that we had, I think it was somewhere between 6 and 8 members, 4 of whom were here that evening. We felt at that time, my clients felt certainly, that it would be inappropriate to ask for a liquor license in as much as the club had not yet gotten off the ground, no improvements had been made to the premises, and then when you gave them the permit, it made it very clear that there was to be no consumption on the premises of alcohol, and that was made very clear. It's not as if this was not discussed at this council meeting. It was. We felt at that time we would most certainly be able to live with that condition in as much as there were virtually no members, and as I said previously, we hadn't built out the space yet. By November, at such time as there was a kind of a grand opening for purposes of registration and showing the club as it stood in November. By November, we had gotten, during the month of November alone, 250 families signed up to join. So we went from being absolutely fledgling to being suddenly kind of a hot commodity, in the sense that there were many, many people that wanted to come to the club, and there were many people that around Thanksgiving, I talked with my clients about seeking a special permit. Seeking a liquor license. We realized that we would need to amend the special permit application before we could ask for a license, in as much as the special permit application has a condition that there be no license or alcohol on the premises. So we come this evening saying that my clients were somewhat overwhelmed by the interest in the facility. They made a mistake in the sense that they were caught with alcohol on the premises. In the report, it's uncertain. It doesn't suggest that there was alcohol for sale at the premises. It suggests that the alcohol was there, that there were receipts, although the receipts never identify any alcoholic beverage. If you look at the receipts, you'll see that they look like they're encoded, and they are, but those are all fruit beverages, and there are Elite beverage, which is more expensive than one of the other fruit drinks. They sell a lot of fruit drinks to to children that are on the premises, and also a mixture of soda and the fruit drinks to adults. As we stated in our earlier testimony, we do drink a lot of coffee there. We are hoping that the council will look favorably upon our apology and will endeavor to see their way clear to either a fine, which we're happy to pay. It would appear, in accordance with the ordinance, that we've been charged with a single violation. Although not mentioned in the police report because there was nothing to report, we are aware that Peabody Police did arrive on the site since this on 2 occasions, and at neither occasion was there alcohol on the premises or the need to find a further violation. So my clients would easily plead guilty and readily plead guilty to the single offense. I note also that there's a mention of gambling on the premises. They do have a Keno permit issued by the state, and they do conduct Keno. So, and we've not been charged with any illegal gambling on the premises. We are hopeful that the council would consider monetary fine, which we would happily pay. If there would be, I'm sure that our ordinance doesn't provide for it, but if there were community service that the council would like to see us provide, we're happy to do that, since that would fit very favorably into our purpose clauses as a cultural center. We'd be happy to comply with any kind of service. We would ask that the council be as lenient as possible, and I can tell you that I have an application for an amendment to the special permit, which would do away with the prohibition and then allow us to apply for a liquor license. I have a liquor license which is completely filled out, but would be inappropriate to file at this time, inasmuch as we would not have amended the special permit. I can file the special permit amendment as soon as I have my landlord's signature. There was parties related or in concert with the landlord that were out of the country last week. So if I were to be able to obtain that signature, I could bring the application forward. We would hear that at some time in probably this late date in February. We'd be looking at an April hearing for an amendment to our special permit license. And were you to then act favorably on the amendment, we could then move forward applying for a liquor license, which would be in the form of a club license, similar to the other ethnic clubs and cultural clubs that are in Peabody. With that, I'm happy to answer whatever questions I can, and I would be happy to answer any such questions. And my clients are here this evening, as well as some members of the Albanian community who are here to provide their support.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Kelty?
Councilor Gamache.
Yeah, I'm going through, if I may, I'm going through the record, and I've only gotten partway through, but several times at that meeting. Were your clients with you at the public hearing?
Yes. Yes, they were. In fact, if you recall, they actually, Andre Kume got up and spoke along with Mr. Petrova, and they're both here this evening.
Okay, because it disturbs me a little bit because, and I'm only on page 13 out of the minutes of that meeting, and I've got 5 times that it was distinctly mentioned, no alcoholic beverages. Now, if it was said once, I could live with it. But it was specifically said multiple times, no alcoholic beverages. And you people agreed to it. So, in fairness to the client, he wants to come back for a liquor license, and then come before us for a amendment to the special permit that we granted. I have a hard time doing it. I'll be quite frank with you. I find it very difficult after the multiple times that were mentioned at that meeting, no alcoholic beverages. And to blatantly, a year later, served alcoholic beverages, to me, it's a slap in the face to the city council. It was mentioned multiple times. You were here, you understood, you agreed to it, and here we are tonight. So I want to go on record as saying I have a very difficult time to amend this special permit at this point because of the violations, and it's not a misunderstanding. It's a blatant violation of what the special permit said. So I'm going to go with what the ward council wants, but I'm not inclined at this point to approve an amendment to the special permit. And that's the only remedy you have to get alcohol. So I just wanted to go on record and say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gamache. Councilor Rossignol.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to Councilor Kelty. I find actually a couple of your comments a little disingenuous. The fact that you're saying that this was a one-time incident and that you're willing to say that this happened once, the fact that there's a glass cooler in this packet that has alcohol in it, there is absolutely no way that this was a one-time deal. So to be honest with you, I found that a little disingenuous. As Councilor Gamache mentioned earlier, throughout that hearing, it was mentioned over and over again that there was going to be no alcohol on the premises. It was going to be family-oriented. And it was specifically stated numerous times. And the fact that there's a glass cooler behind the bar is as Councilor Gamache put it, a slap in the face to the council. That's just the way I see it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Rossignol. Councilor Gould, then Councilor Turco.
I'll let Councilor Peach go first if you'd like. No, okay. Mr. Kelty, Attorney Kelty, excuse me, I was very adamant that night that there was coffee served only, and I repeated it a number of times. I actually embraced the idea of having an Albanian community club, and I promoted it because I thought it was the right thing to do for the Albanians living in the area, of which I have a lot of friends and customers that are of Albanian descent. But then to hear through the grapevine that there were parties continually going on. There was a New Year's Eve party. There's a concert coming up this weekend. There's all kinds of different parties that are held there. And can any of you tell me, through you, Attorney Kelty, can your clients tell me, is there any alcohol served?
No.
No.
No, there isn't.
No alcohol served.
Correct.
So all the social media pictures that are out there with alcohol at tables.
They did hold the New Year's party without alcohol.
Without alcohol?
Yes. This occasion had preceded that, so they were on notice.
I find that very hard to believe, but there's no way to prove it. But I am adamant about doing something to right the situation. I'm not sure which level I'd like to go at, but Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Gould. Back to Councilor Rosendahl first, and Councilor Turk.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate you coming back to me. Just really quickly, you had mentioned that you noticed that the club noticed an influx in November. At that point, why didn't your clients, or you for that matter, at that point, seeing that there was going to be, what did you call it, a hot commodity, that then come before this council or petition that you're looking for an alcohol license, so that it shows that you're being proactive? I understand in the beginning that when you stated you're not sure whether the organization was going to grow, you weren't sure how many members, but once you realized in November that this was starting to be a success, and which is excellent, which is the whole purpose of establishing this facility, at that point, why not come before us and hit the nail on the head and get in front of this, instead of, in my opinion, trying to go behind our back and doing all of these things that just didn't need to happen?
I can't answer the question of why they didn't come in November. I can answer the question as to why the influx occurred in November, and that was because once they were in a position to be able to show the club, and they did mailing, and they did that mailing in October, and that's when then this influx of interest in family memberships in the club became very real. Hindsight is always 20/20. As such, they never should have put themselves in the position. You're correct, Councilor Gamache and Rosendahl and any of the other councilors who are going to add that we well knew that there was a condition that suggested there was no alcohol to be served or even consumed or on the premises. I mean, it was very clear it's not even supposed to be there. So, you know, the fridge is a giant problem.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Rosendahl, Councilor Turco, then Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, this one surprised me a bit. Much like Councilor Gould, I remember when gentleman came forward to open this, and they talked about how Albanians love coffee, and, you know, as somebody that loves coffee and drinks a lot of coffee, you know, I think I joked that I would be by there. Fortunately, it wasn't on December 27th. But, you know, in truth, what surprised me the most is that I had asked, again, like Councilor Gould, I have several Albanian friends, one who I work with every day, and they're all very well aware of the social club, and proud of it. I mean, proud of the fact that, you know, the Albanian culture, I've heard they have classes, they teach language, you know, and it's very well attended. And then to find out, the first thing that I actually found out was that they were having the New Year's Eve party, and I again agree with Councilor Gould. I'm doubtful that there was no alcohol there. There was, I actually saw quite a few videos of that party, and if I'm not mistaken, there was alcohol there, but I won't, you know, harp on that. But I found that out first, only to find out later on that they had already previously, 4 days prior, received a violation. And, you know, I'm always inclined, I think we all are, to be, you know, sympathetic and say, well, you made a mistake. 4 days apart tells me that, you know, whatever we do here, if we're lenient, might not make a difference to them. They would probably not appreciate the fact that we were lenient. And it's sad that, you know, a club like this, that, you know, Peabody has always prided itself on you know, its diverse cultures, you know, through the International Festival and the amount of social clubs that we have in the city. And, you know, to add an Albanian club would have been, you know, a source of pride for us as a council to have there. And to see it thrown away over a couple of beers, it just doesn't really make sense to me. So again, I will defer to the ward council, but I feel I'm not sure that, receiving a violation 4 days later, violating the same thing again, proves anything. And Attorney Kelty, I'm actually kind of surprised that you would mention the, you could have probably gone without mentioning that you would come forward for a liquor license during this hearing anyway. And I would be very, very reluctant and say publicly, highly unlikely that I would support something like that at that property. So, again, I'll defer to Councilor Peach on what she'd like to do there.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Councilor Peach, then Councilor Manning Martin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll get into, my thoughts as to how to move forward on the special permit, but through you to Attorney Kelty, in your comments, you mentioned the receipts don't mention alcohol. It's very cute the way things are worded, but I wouldn't be paying $6.25 a drink for a juice for my kid. So, no proof, but that's cute. I think the fact that, this wasn't someone bringing in a six-pack to a club. This wasn't, I understand the manager saying, we told them no alcohol, but they brought it anyway. This isn't someone bringing, again, a six-pack or a 12-pack after work to wind down at the social club. This was very well thought out. There was a refrigerator brought in. It was stocked with alcoholic beverages to the point that a resident called the state. They didn't even call their city councilors because we didn't give them a liquor license. So what could we have done? They called the state, and the state took action and issued a cease and desist, which is a criminal offense to sell alcohol. Mass General Law, Chapter 60 and 61, you can be held for a fine. You can also be imprisoned for 3 months to a year for selling alcohol without a license at a social club. This isn't, someone had a party and made a mistake. This was very well thought out. It's wonderful that the club grew in size. We met prior to the special permit hearing with your client, and we talked about how this was a smaller space. We wanted to test it out, see how many members you could grow, and as you grew, move into a larger venue that would be more appropriate for this type of social club. The place that you're at that shares the building with a church. Does that seem like an appropriate place for a social club? The council may have had a different stance on the special permit when we were talking about this had alcohol been brought up. Had your client been forthcoming with their intentions to have alcohol on the premise. That is why it was very specifically put into the permit, and it is actually one of two conditions. The second condition being your hours of operation, which are quite liberal and never would have been granted had alcohol been on the premise. So the hours of operation were granted for different reasons, cultural reasons as to being able to get there early in the morning, be there later at night because of the industries that the members would be working in. And the council granted that under the assumption there would be no alcohol here. This isn't a super residential area, but there are still residents here. And for the residents to not have the ability to call the council for us to take action because we didn't actually grant a liquor license and have to go through the state kind of makes us look foolish. And then we're getting a notice from the state that, hey, the ABCC went in to this social club, just FYI, because normally they're going into places that have liquor licenses and they're violating them on other things, even though they are licensed. This is I don't want to say it's a slap in the face to the council. I don't view myself as this is like a personal insult. I just think we hold so many other businesses and clubs to rules. We gave you one rule, you agreed to it, and you didn't do it. Like, you broke it. And I think the call started coming in November, but that may have just been, the number of people increased, so it was much more noticeable. But again, this wasn't a six-pack being brought in after a long day of work to the social club. This wasn't Sambuca in your coffee the day before Thanksgiving. This was a clear, blatant violation. There was a cease and desist from the state, followed by a cease and desist from the city of Peabody, and there was a party, and there are social media posts, and we don't have to get into that blatantly show alcohol. And again, I don't know who's paying $6.25 for a cup of juice, but it's not me. And I'm sure it's not the families at the Albanian Club either. So it's cute the way things are worded, because I guess there's no real evidence there on that receipt. But we also discussed, would you be selling food and beverages? And that was also an answer of a no. We'd be bringing things in from other places. So I guess there's no food being served and cooked, by the club. But it wasn't forthcoming. And for me, if you wanted to go down the road of a liquor license, that should have been brought up, because the first step to that would be to amend your special permit, and we should have had that request back in November when you first thought of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Peach. Councilor Manning Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have too much to add to what Councilor Peach has said. She's raised many of the issues that I had. I'll just add to that, due to the activity and the disturbance down there that brought this to light, it tells me that that location isn't suitable for 250 families and alcohol. And as Council Peach had said, maybe the council would, if we had known that that was going to be the size and that you were going in the direction of getting a liquor license, we may have said, I think that's not a good location, it's not a good match, maybe you should find another, let us help you find another building, another location. Because you've already outgrown this building in this area without the proper licensing. You've already outgrown it. So your client has really shown us that this is a bad fit to go forward in the direction that you've described this evening that your client would like to go to. I think it's a bad fit, and maybe you should, if you want to continue having parties and serving alcohol and having large number of people in parties, then this isn't the right location for you. And I don't think this council, had it been presented those things, would have granted you the licenses at that time for such request. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Manning Martin. Any other councilors? I'd just like to make a quick comment. I voted in favor of this. I do like the idea of having an Albanian social club as it was brought forward to us. I know I'm not going to spend much time going over it. I know a number of my colleagues have already discussed this, but there are many opportunities during that evening to discuss whether a liquor permit would be required for this, this particular location. I do just want to remind some of our fellow councilors that we recently conditioned Toscana on Linfield Street to have a police presence if we were going to exceed 200 guests at any time, and that was a consideration for the neighborhood, primarily because alcohol would be served there. That was the case with Stonewood and has been the case with Toscana. So however we move forward this evening, I just want my fellow councilors to remember that we recently did condition an event space that was going to be hosting large events to require police presence if there was over 200 guests. So, thanks.
Is there anyone else this evening who would like to give evidence in this show cause hearing? If there does not appear to be, I would suggest it might be appropriate to vote to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilor Peach. Councilors, you've heard the motion from Councilor Peach. Oh, sorry. Before we close the public hearing, I believe yep, if you could come up to the podium, please. If you could just state your name and your address and just hit the red button before you speak. Thank you.
Andy Kumer, 26 Holy Street. I'm one of the founding members. I just wanted to personally apologize, and on behalf of the 300 family members that we have already registered, we are a small community, all Albanians. Our organization is for Albanians. This was something that we started small. We didn't know how many Albanians will be in Peabody. So when we realized in the month of November that we had over 300 families, and out of these 300 families, Around 120 of them live in Peabody. They're all residents with their families. Some of those members are here today. I am speaking on behalf of them, and I wanted to apologize on behalf of them about what you heard today. We, the founding members, we have no experience with businesses, okay, or with organizations. We were focused on building something that's nice, something that's welcoming to everyone, and a place that you can come and unwind, meet someone, talk about your business, and do connections. We did not, when we got that night the special permit, we were focused on the idea that we will open. We should have been more careful with the language. We were under the impression that because we talked about the liquor license, that was something that was going to come after. The grand opening or the center inauguration happened in late October. In the month of November, we had all of these people came up showing their support, and very, very exciting. So now you can imagine we have a 5,000 square feet venue that we invested in it. Everybody came, some people painted, some people put in the carpet, and it was just an enjoyable adventure. Now, during the month of November, you can imagine you have people coming in, we're doing the constructions. I talked with Mr. Kelty a lot about what's next to come, and we were preparing in December to come up and apply for the liquor license. At that time, we found out that there was a restriction about the alcohol. It's my bad, and I apologize that we were not careful in reading the special permit, and it does say in there no sale of alcohol, and I thought it was no sale of alcohol. It's actually no sale of alcohol or consumption of premises. Now, we can go around and point fingers and look at the facts and say, okay, this is what went wrong, and this is what I am here today to ask is, this is going to affect 300 families. I'm very embarrassed, first of all, that I'm in front of you and I'm representing them, but it's going to affect over 300 families. We have something that's very nice. We have had no issues. The first time that the ABCC came in, they did all their investigation, whatever. We did all that we can to be back and come back to you and say, okay, whatever happened, we want to look at the future. I am asking you today, we are here to do anything that will make this council happy, and anything that you think is appropriate, fine. But I will also ask you to just rethink, and we have something that's, I would say that is going to benefit a lot of people. We are a very small community in Peabody. We are a minority. Let's make something for this community to come together, just like the Portuguese, just like the Italians. We want to have the same thing that they do. If that's not the right venue, I'm not going to disagree, but I would say think about it. Think about all of those people that will get affected. And we are here to correct. If we have made a mistake, we would like to correct, but we want to correct it in such a way, and we're asking for your guidance. If we did something wrong, it was done because we don't have the experience. We all have full-time jobs. We're doing this on the side. We're doing this for the community, and we're not getting paid for it. It's all for the community and to be together. So if you can at least just be open-minded about what's coming, that's all I'm asking. We're not saying, all I'm asking today is I want you to first apologize and follow up. I'm asking to, when you make that decision, to be aware that you're not affecting just a small, you're affecting a minority that's part of the Peabody community. And I can provide names. We have all registered. They are all registered in Peabody. They're very, very happy about the center. So we the biggest punishment is not a fine, it's not the biggest punishment for me, at least as a founding member, is when I go back to them and I say, this is what happened. That's the biggest punishment for me, personally, that we let down all of those families. We could have handled it different. We did not know that would be so many people in it. We just had no idea. That's all. And the inexperience plays a big part in it. We're not business people. That's why it's a community center which we depend on other people for guidance. People like you for guidance, people that have been in business. That's all I'm asking. I'm asking that you guys keep an open mind on this request that Mr. Kelty presented today and what's coming in the next 2 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Daigle, would you like to ask the gentleman any questions?
Yeah, through you, thank you, Mr. President. Through you, could I ask a question? I think I heard you say that you have 5,000 square feet?
I believe 4,600. I believe it's 4,600. I'm not sure what the lease says, but yes.
All right, that struck me. I assume, well, maybe my colleagues can help me with the procedure here, but the minutes state that it's 2,000 square feet. So I'm not sure at what point we would have had to amend the special permit to reflect proper code certification. What's on the special permit is what you're allowed with the building code. So I just want to make sure we can check and make sure all of that does it affect the special permit if it's bigger than what we approved? These are just questions going through my mind.
I believe it's on the list that we have. It's the space is not going to change. It's whatever we have on the list. I don't remember on top of my head right now the square footage. But
we were looking at 2,000 in the minutes from when you first came. So 300 families and 2,000 square feet. I guess 5 sounds like it makes more sense, but I'm not sure if that's what we approved.
I would clarify that. So we have a signed list that has the proper square footage because the landlord gets paid. The area that is utilized, because the area that's utilized, the biggest area is 2,000 square feet. That's where all of the members get together, the place that it's social. And then the back are like offices. We didn't have the funds to go in and do renovation and all that stuff, so we just left it as is. Maybe that's why that's referring to 2,000, because that's actually, if you look at it, that will be 2,000 square feet. But we're paying for more than that, so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Daigle. Any other councilors? Councilor Rosenau.
Thank you, Mr. President. Were you here the first night when this hearing took place?
Yes, I was.
And you were well aware that the council, as well as your attorney, agreed that there was going to be no alcohol?
Yes.
So at what point did a glass cooler come to that facility that was stocked with alcohol? When did that occur?
So we have drinks that are imported from Albania, and we have traditional tea that comes from Albania, which is packaged. And those are those 625 that Councilor Peach read. Those are very expensive because they get imported. Now, we have also water there, and sparkling water and juices. That's why we had the cooler there. The problem that I have, and I know where you're getting, is, and you have a picture there, is that we, the founding members, we're not on premises every day, as I said. I am there, I try to go there at least 3 or 4 days a week. And when we had so many people come in, well, a few things got out of hand, in the meaning that we tried to finish the construction. There was trying to register people, trying to fix the insurance that we had. It was just too much. It was just too much for all of us, and it's only 3 founding members. We're trying to recruit people to help us, and it's actually where it was more difficult because when you don't pay for it, they have to give you the time for free. So it just got out of hand. That's why I'm here today. We should have probably hired someone more professional in managing it and not doing it ourselves. That's why I said I'm here today to apologize. I'm not here today to say that to contest anything or say anything but I'm just here to ask for an apology and ask that you reconsider and just let's look. I want to, again, it's not much that I can say that if there is one thing that we can do to change your mind, I would do it in a heartbeat. But unfortunately, this is the reality. We made a mistake. It was because of the inexperience that we had. And as I said, the biggest penalty is going back to those 300 members and explaining what happened tonight. That's the biggest punishment, which we will leave. Doesn't matter what the decision is, we will have to go back and tell them that, try to explain to them. That's the biggest issue, that penalty that I have. And I'm here to just ask for your support. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Lastly, whatever the council decides, it's actually the actions that you took or did not take that is causing our reaction. So I just want to be perfectly clear. If we decide to pull your special permit, or if we decide to do a fine or whatever, as Attorney Khan laid out, there are a number of different things that we as a council can do. Whatever those actions are, it's your actions that's causing our reaction to that. So I know a couple of times you had just mentioned, like, oh, well, you know, it will be our fault if something happens. It's actually not. If you followed, as Councilor Peach mentioned, you had 2 rules. That's it, 2. You had to follow them. So whatever the council decides from then on, it's because you had the inability to follow those 2 rules. I just want to be perfectly clear of how we got here. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Osnott. Would you like to respond?
Yeah, I would just like to say, as I said, we were so excited about opening the center that we completely not ignored, but we missed all those restrictions. I was completely unaware of it. We were here that day. We spoke on that meeting about the license. So I was under the impression that because we spoke about the license, there was not going to be anything in the special permit that will prevent us from getting a license. I was completely incorrect on that.
Any other councilors? Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll try to be brief because obviously councilors have raised the same concerns we all have. Just a couple things. Certainly, I want to state for the record that we were open-minded, as we all talked about. We were supportive of a cultural center there, and went out on a limb with the hours, given that there was going to be no alcohol, and you brought up that alcohol was not going to be consumed. I'll just say I get offended when you keep saying, you know, we didn't know, or I didn't know, or we were busy. You know, I'm not on premises. It does not give me a trust factor. You got caught is what happened. That's why we're here. Who knows what else happened before? We're only here for one particular night. I just find it disappointing that while you apologize, it's always, well, it's this, it's an excuse, it's that, and if I could just finish, you're the principal. You came to us and told us what the cultural center was going to be used for. 2 conditions. One of them said no alcohol, consumed or sold. Very easy to understand. It has nothing to do with being a business person, experienced or anything. Whatever happens, these rules are there for everyone, and we ask all the businesses that come before us for special permits to follow them, to comply. You want a different break because you didn't know. It's offensive. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor O'Neill. Any other councilors? All right. Seeing none, I had a quick question for you. Is there a designated business manager on site?
So we try to rotate, but we do have a person, yes, that tries to go there most of the time, yes.
Okay. Just to clarify, so at any time that it's in operation, is there essentially, I don't want to phrase this incorrectly, but is there somebody in charge? Like if you were to go there whatever time of day that the business hours are open, is there someone there?
Usually we have someone that you can call, and that person in charge will go there, but it's all volunteers at this point, so.
Okay, got it. And the reason I'm asking that is just to kind of further discuss what you were mentioning, is it sounds like there's no one there to, if someone was bringing alcohol in currently, there may be a situation in which there's no one there to tell them that they can't. Okay. And then the second question I had, just for Attorney Kelty, if you don't mind, I just wanted clarification if this is filed as a LLC currently and is going to stay that way, or will you be seeking a 501c3 status as a cultural designation, if you haven't already?
My client and I discussed that this evening, and we may change that designation.
To 501c3?
Yes.
Okay.
We do have that. That's what we are.
You're already set up as a 501c3?
Oh, C3, but he asked about the cultural. Right. And we have that. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. No other questions from me? Any other counselors? Okay. Don.
Yep. Anyone else who wishes to testify?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Clavis Kurasi, 94 Bird Street in Peabody. I'm from Albania, as you all know. We came here to support our community because it's such a small community in Peabody. Is growing from Albanians. When I first came to Peabody, there was not so many Albanians, but now it's growing because more Albanians come to Peabody. First of all, because of the seat of Peabody. They love it. It's such a nice place to live at. I grew up in Peabody pretty much since I moved here from Albania. I own a local business, the Peabody Diner down on Margin Street. I've been there for the past 5 years, since 2017, and a few more restaurants in Marblehead and Charlestown in Boston. Also, I wanted to say that the Albania Social Club has brought a lot of Albanians together. Number one, my 92-year-old grandfather that lives with us, he loves to go there in the morning to have coffee with his friends, to chit-chat with all the people and his age and everything, and he loves it. Not only the Albanian community, but also the Greek Albanians that go there. I'm Greek Albanian, my mom is Greek, also I speak both languages. And I wanted to say, I won the council, and I'm really going to appreciate that, to give our community another chance so we can make everybody proud in this city, like we are so far. And pretty sure all of you know many Albanians around the city. They're hardworking people. I don't believe they're creating trouble around the city. They try to do their businesses like we all do. And we're hardworking people. That's what I have to say. But thank you very much. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else before we close the hearing? Does not appear to be anybody else who wishes to speak.
Thank you, Attorney Khan. I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Peach. Councilors, you've heard the motion. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. The public hearing is closed. Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. I touched on what brought this to my attention in the first place, and I know Councilor Gould received phone calls from residents, abutting residents to the club. But before I received a call from a resident, I received a notification that the ABCC had entered the club, found that they were consuming and selling alcohol on the premises, and to me that was really just, okay, now we need to take action. And as that information came through, there was a second cease and desist, as we know, from the city of Peabody, and then another event that occurred, which did or did not have alcohol. I would like to think that I am more lenient than most counselors have been in the past as far as hours of operation. I give the benefit of the doubt to businesses. I like to see places thrive and succeed and find where do we strike that balance between residential and business. I love that there's a thriving Albanian club here. I went to high school with a significant amount of students that came from Albania, either right as we entered high school or when we were in middle school. many who are still my friends today. And I think it is important that there's a cultural club for them. I don't think that this is an appropriate space for alcohol to be consumed. Its proximity, its size, the other businesses that are in this building. So at the very least, what I would like to see happen is an adjustment to their hours, a suspension of their permit. But I did come in here tonight looking to revoke their special permit because I think we gave them very clear rules. We've gone through entertainment license where there's 17 conditions, and they had 2, and they didn't follow the main one. So to me, it's just, I don't know how we continue this way. This is obviously my first show cause hearing. I don't think they're very common on the council. But I do feel like there's nothing that's going to prevent this from happening moving forward. I don't see how this stops. There's no business manager on site. Their hours are extensive. So if they were to continue to be hold the special permit, their hours would need to be significantly reduced. There is no one on site to prevent any of this from happening. And it's not, as I said previously, that someone brought a 12-pack in or brought Sambuca to spike your coffee before Thanksgiving. It's significantly different. There's a whole operation. There's exchange of money, which, as I said, is a criminal offense in the state of Massachusetts. So to me, I don't know how we prevent this from not happening again. I don't know, I guess, through Attorney Khan, is there a way we condition that, the city comes in and inspects them every so often? Is that a violation? I don't know. I don't want to shut down a cultural club that can provide things for a thriving community in Peabody. I also don't want to, slap a fine on this, a short-term suspension, and then be back here in 6 months because this is still continuing, because I will not support a liquor license at this location. Not to say I wouldn't support a liquor license for this club, but this location is not appropriate for that. So I guess I'll defer to my counsel to convince me, how we can fix this, how we can prevent this from happening. But right now I see no other solution but to revoke their permit, because there's no way we can guarantee we're not here in 6 months. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Peach. Any other councilors? Councilor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. President. Could, through you to Attorney Khan, could you please lay out the, what you believe are the criteria for taking action, please?
Certainly. I think from most severe to least severe, you could vote to revoke the special permit would be the most severe thing you could do. You could suspend the permit for a period of time that you thought would be appropriate. You could issue fines. In this case, it appears this is only one violation, so it would be a fine based on one violation. You could take no action, but I think those are the 4 categories of things that you could do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gould. Councilor Gamache, then Councilor Rossignol.
Yes, through you to Solicitor Khan. You mentioned a fine. What is the limitation on fines? Is there anything in our code or our ordinances? I know most of them say $300.
Yeah, there's a provision in the zoning code that would limit you to $300. So it would not be a substantial fine.
No. That's not going to do it. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gamache. Councilor Rossignol.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to Attorney Khan. If we suspended their special permit, could we put conditions on that for them to get the special permit back? For instance, because I agree with Councilor Peach, we need assurances that that we're not going to be here in 2 months, and I agree with Councilor Peach that there are no assurances. I do think that this would happen. So in my scenario, at least in my head, I don't want to see the community suffer for negligence by the leaders of this group. So with a suspension, could we then condition it that there is a business manager or an office manager there to any hours of operation, and condition it that there are inspections done periodically as we see fit. Because the only way I can envision this moving forward without a revocation is if there are safety measures in place. Other than that, I agree with Councilor Peach. I don't see any way that we're not literally in the same room doing the same exact thing in a few months.
I suppose that you could suspend the license for a period of time, and you could require that they return at the end of the suspension with a business plan that indicates that they're going to have a manager and that they're going to have be able to cover the building with the manager for certain hours. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks, Councilor Rosendahl. Councilor Turco.
Thank you. I'm glad the discussion took place. I'm reluctant to take the permit in whole. I like the fact of a suspension, although the fine is minimal. I think a $300 fine and some term of suspension would be there. I understand the concerns of other councilors, which is why I'd like to ask Lieutenant Bonfanti if he doesn't mind. I think a lot of this is going to fall on the police department, and we talk about enforcement, and if Lieutenant, if you don't mind.
The public meeting's closed. I don't know, procedurally, do we have to?
My apologies. Lieutenant, my apologies. We already closed the public meeting. So ultimately, what I would have asked Lieutenant Bonfanti is if the police department had issue with regular unsolicited visits to this location. And I'm going to assume that Lieutenant Bonfanti doesn't have an issue with that.
I've been advised from Attorney Khan we can move to suspend the rules to allow Lieutenant Bonfanti to answer if the council so agrees, and I can get a motion as such.
Move to suspend the rules.
Councilors, you've heard the motion. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed, it's a vote. Lieutenant Bonfanti, if you don't mind joining us at the podium.
Lieutenant, thank you very much. You hear the discussion, and with the suspension, the worry is enforcement and whether, we're just going to be back here again. And I think a lot of that would, what we do here would then fall on you. And do you find it to be an issue if we suspended and you made regular visits there? And, I don't know what regular constitutes, but do you see that as viable?
We can definitely make regular visits throughout the parking lot to see if there's activity, but to get into the business, I see that being a problem without being an invitee.
Point of information?
They have the rights.
Point of information?
Gamache.
The jurisdiction falls upon the building inspector's office to check out special permit violations, other than, like Officer Bonfanti said, they can check the parking lots, but the purview falls on the building inspector to do all of the follow-ups on special permits.
I agree, Councilor. Through you, Mr. President, to Councilor Gamache, I agree, yet the criminal part of it would fall through the police department for illegal sale of alcohol and illegal consumption without a license. Excuse me, illegal sale without a license. So I guess, it's back to Councilor Peach's point. It's without having, without the police department having the ability to appear on the premises inside the building. It's very difficult to enforce, but I'd like to see something less than full revocation of the permits.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Councilor Manning Martin.
Mr. Chairman, just as a suggestion to Councilor Peach, we've heard a lot tonight how these are just volunteers and how they're overwhelmed and inexperienced. So they need to be educated and trained in, tips training, alcohol, safety classes, that they need. If those are the things that they need to succeed, if we were to suspend, and they can fulfill all these things and then come back and show us that we can have confidence in them, because what I'm hearing, none of us really have confidence in them, and they don't have confidence in themselves. So they're going to, in addition to a business plan and a manager on site, who are they buying their alcohol from? There are laws. You can't just go to Costco and wheel in, fill up your coolers and then have just private club members come in and out, and they have a Keno machine there. I mean, they're crossing a lot of lines, and if they're that inexperienced and overwhelmed, they're just going to continue to get themselves in trouble. So they need to, if there is a suspension, they need to come back with a plan that shows this council that they have confidence in themselves that they won't be overwhelmed and that they do know what they're doing. He freely admitted that everything they did, was out of excitement and inexperience. So they have to show us that they are experienced, they have been trained, they have a plan, and that we can give them another chance. Because if they can't do that, they will not succeed, and, then we'll just have to pull the plug. So I'll just defer now to Council Peach and see what a recommendation is.
Thank you, Councilor Manning. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to Attorney Khan, the issue that Councilor Turco raised about the police going on site routinely, the response from the department is that they can't go in without an invitation. Would we also be able to modify the conditions of the permit to add a condition that they have, the police department has a standing authority to go on the premises for routine inspections?
Yeah, I mean, the police theoretically can't go on the premises unless there's some reason to be there, like a citizen complaint that something is going on, unless they were invited. I suppose that you could impose a condition of, periodic inspections by the police.
So I just wanted to be clear on this because that's a little outside the realm of the possibilities that you offered. So what I'm suggesting is an additional condition on the existing permit. So, and it sounds like you're saying that would be something that we would have the authority to do.
Yeah, I think it's possible that you could, yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn, and thank you for asking that question. I actually had a similar thought because the condition for Toscana on Linfield Street came with police detail when we triggered a certain number of attendees at an event. I know that they have not yet met that criteria. They haven't had a private event exceeding 200 people as of yet, but Lieutenant Bonfanti, not to throw you on the spot, but I don't know if you may recall when Stonewood previously was operating, there was a police presence there during the weekend operation hours. Do you recall, or could you provide any feedback for us in terms of were the police in the establishment for that, or were they just in the parking lot?
For that particular one, we were not in the bar area. We were mostly outside. It was going back a few years, but mostly it was parking lot patrol. Any detail like that would have to be approved by the chief of police.
Thank you, Lieutenant Bonfanti. Any other councilors? Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to comment. I understand we are trying to find a solution. I just wouldn't want to, I guess, if we're asking or possibly conditioning the police to have the ability to do inspections, I just think, just puts the burden on them. Without a probable cause, they shouldn't be entering a private, club. And I just don't want to put them in that spot. And if we are, in fact, having to do that because we may not trust what's going on there, therein lies the problem. So I'm just throwing that out. I don't, I just want to comment. I understand we're trying to find a solution, but there aren't a lot of solutions that the actual client or the applicant current special permit is telling us, other than like we messed up and we don't really have any controls, is what I hear. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor O'Neill. Any other councilors? Yes, Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. I guess through you to Attorney Khan, since discussion seems to have ceased with the council, would it be appropriate to make a motion to take action at this time?
Excuse me?
Would it be appropriate to make a motion?
Yes.
Or do we need to close a hearing before a
I
motion?
believe the hearing has been closed, so I think it's, unless, oh, yeah, it probably would be wise to take an additional vote to close then, since we did suspend the rules.
Mr. President, so moved.
Okay, you've heard the motion. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed, it's a vote. Public hearing's closed. Thank you again, Lieutenant Bonfanti. Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate everyone's input. I think this is not a great situation to be in. I don't think any of us want to stifle a community club. Especially, you know, like I mentioned before, we've seen the Albanian community in Peabody grow pretty quickly over the last 15 to 20 years, and they are primarily in Ward 3. And Ward 2. I have to give Councilor McGinn credit. But I'm not looking to stifle anything that could be beneficial for a growing community here in Peabody, but I do think there are consequences when the rules are violated. I think the recommendations, what I'd like to move to do is I'd move for a 3-month suspension of their special permit with a $300 fine, which is the maximum allowed by ordinance. And I ask that after that 3 months is up, before we can reinstate their special permit, they come before us with a business plan, presenting to us their board members, the responsible parties, and how they plan to mitigate this issue moving forward. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor Peach. Councilors, you've heard the motion. Any discussion? Councilor Daigle.
Thank you, Mr. President. The letter that the clerk sent to Mr. Bokova says that any person, firm or corporation violating any section of the provision ordinance shall be fined $200 for the first offense rather than the 3. So I'm not sure. It's pretty far through our record.
Mr. President, I'd amend my motion to be a $200 fine, as this is considered a first offense.
Thank you, Councilor Peach. Councilor Peach, would you mind just restating the conditions that you wish to move forward with?
I'd look for a 3-month suspension of their special permit, the $200 fine allowed by ordinance, and when those 3 months are up, to have them come before us before their special permit is reinstated with a business plan, presentation of their board members, the responsible parties, and how they plan to mitigate this issue moving forward.
Thank you, Councilor Peach. Councilors, you've heard the motion from Councilor Peach and the conditions included therein. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilors Turco,
Yes.
Daigle,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Peach,
Yes.
Manning Martin,
Yes.
Gould,
Yes.
Rozignol,
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Thank you, councilors. Thank you, Council Khan. Moving on to the next item. Hearing 4D, special permit for JG Backlund Realty Trust. The clerk will now read the notice. Excuse me. Can I get a motion to receive?
Under suspension of the rules, I move to receive item 8F.
Thank you, Councilor Gamache. Councilors, you've heard the motion. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed, it's a vote.
This is a request to continue this as it was not heard at the Conservation Commission. I did speak to Department of Public Services engineers that believe that they will have all of the information available for the Conservation Commission meeting next month. And it seems that the meeting at the end of this month will finally take place. So moved. So I'll grant the permission to continue.
Could you clarify which date?
When's our last meeting in March? Is it the 23rd? March 23rd.
Councilors, you've heard the motion from Councilor Gamache. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed, it's a vote. Okay, moving on to reports of committees. Councilor Manning Martin, Municipal Safety Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Municipal Safety Committee met this evening with myself as chair, attended by members Councilor Gamache, Gould, O'Neill, and Rossignol, as well as a full complement of councilors. And we discussed one item, and that was a draft ordinance of a car carrier by motor vehicle. There was lengthy discussion stemming from earlier discussions about car carriers on both Route 1 and 114. And we had Representatives Cairns and Representative Walsh come to address this matter, as they have been working with the council for several months to address this issue. And Councilor Gamache has worked with State Rep Walsh to compile the language for an ordinance to be enacted. And we would like to send this ordinance, there was a vote of the committee, to send the draft ordinance to include a $1,000 fine per violation to this ordinance as it was submitted in subcommittee for the city solicitor to review and draft to include the imposing fine of $1,000 for each infraction, and send it back to the full committee. And that motion was unanimous, and I put it forward to the full committee. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor Manning Martin. Councilors, you've heard the motion. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none. We have to do roll call. Call vote. Seeing no discussion, all in favor, any opposed, it's a vote. All right. Councilor Manning Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I also want to thank both Representatives Walsh and Cairns for attending this evening, and I also want to thank Councilor Gamache for coordinating with Representative Walsh to formulate the language of this draft to pursue further. Thank you very much, and that is the report of committee.
Thank you, Councilor Manning Martin. Next, we have Legal Affairs Committee. Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Legal Affairs Committee met early this evening. In attendance were committee members McGinn, Councilors McGinn, Melville, Peach, and Turco. We were also joined by all our other councilors. And we had 3 items on the agenda. The first one was an easement for Bartholomew Street, and we had Attorney Don Kahn, City Solicitor Don Kahn appear before us, as well as Attorney Jack Kelty, to talk about the need for the fact that this easement is necessary due to an error in the plans, in which a portion of the Peabody streets are actually on the owner's property. And so this easement grants the city the right to maintain and repair the road. The motion to authorize the mayor to enter into the granting of the easement, to sign the granting of the easement by Peabody Living was a 5-0 positive vote. So at this time, I'd move forward with the motion as follows. Be it so ordered by the Peabody City Council to authorize Mayor Edward Betancourt to execute the grant of easement by the Peabody Living Limited Liability Company of 749 Lowell Street, Linfield, Mass. The owners of certain properties shown as 234 Bartholomew Street, containing 42,429 square feet of land on a plan entitled Subdivision Plan of Land, Eastern Land Survey Associates Incorporated, dated March 20th, 1986, which plan is recorded at the Essex South District Registry of Deeds, Land Registration Office as Land Court Plan 30475-N, the plan. The right and easement to pass and repass over and on have access to, construct, maintain, and repair that certain area shown as roadway easement over Lot 73 for the benefit of the City of Peabody, as shown on a plan entitled Subdivision Plan of Land located in Peabody, Mass., dated January 19th, 2018, and recorded at the Essex South District Registry of Deeds, Land Registration Office's Plan 30475, and so moved.
Thank you, Councilor O'Neill. Councilors, you've heard the motion. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Also, we had an item that we received in that meeting, Communication 8E. Wanted to make sure that we receive it in the council meeting and refer to that to legal affairs. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor O'Neill. Was that in the form? Was that a motion, Councilor O'Neill, to clarify?
Yes, sorry. Under suspension of rules, move to receive Communication 8E. So
Okay.
moved.
Thank you. Councilors, you've heard the motion. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. We had two other items that we discussed. One of them was a discussion of the responsible employer ordinance. At this time, it's remained in committee, so there was no further actions taken this evening. And the second last item was the discussion about size of political signs. That actually is staying in legal affairs at this time for further discussion. So that completes my report for legal affairs this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor O'Neill. Moving on to reports from Committee of the Whole. This evening, Thursday, February 23rd, the City Council meeting as the Committee of the Whole met to discuss pending litigation regarding extreme packing 7 Webster Street, Unit F, and thus concludes the report from the Committee of the Whole this evening. Moving on to motions, orders, and resolutions. Councilor Daigle.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, I'd move to receive item 8C and set it up for a special permit hearing.
Thank you, Councilor Daigle. Councilors, you've heard the motion. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Daigle.
Under suspension of the rules, I would also like to receive item 8D and schedule that for a special permit hearing.
Thank you, Councilor Daigle. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Daigle.
Under suspension of the rules, I would like to receive item 9E and approve the block party request subject to all papers being in order.
Thank you, Councilor Daigle. Councilors, you've heard the motion. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Daigle.
And I would like to make a motion to request that Peabody Municipal Light Plant install a street light on the pole in front of 38 King Street. The residents have complained that it's dark in that area. I have verified that. It's on the way to the Higgins Middle School, so I would like to formally request that they install that light. Thank you. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor Daigle. Councilors, you've heard the motion. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Daigle.
No further motions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Daigle. Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of rules, move to receive and refer item communication from the Mayor, His Honor, the Mayor 7C purchase and sale agreement for 0 Felton Avenue, 0 Goldwaith Avenue, 0 Appleton Street, 0 Pulsafire Avenue. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor O'Neill. Councilors, you've heard the motion. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of rules, move to receive and refer communication from His Honor the Mayor 7D, draft zoning ordinance, section 7, colon 8-90, vacant structures and vacant land. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor O'Neill. Councilors, on the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. No further motions this evening.
Thank you, Councilor O'Neill. Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive item 8B.
Councilors, you've heard the motion. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Peach.
Thank you. Just on 8B, that was the letter that the Department of Health, Board of Health of Peabody drafted and sent to Governor Healy about Project 2015A, the peaker plant, that we did endorse this letter to the governor as well, just for your record.
Thank you, Councilor Peach.
Under suspension of the rules, move to, I always mess these one up, receive and approve item 10B as advertised. adopt
Adopt
item
as
10B
advertised.
as advertised. So moved.
Councilors, you've heard the motion from Council Peach. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, roll call vote on this one.
Councilors Daigle.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Gould. Rozignol.
Yes.
Gamache. Yes. Melville.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. No further motions.
Thank you, Councilor Peach. Councilor Manning Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Under suspension of the rules, motion to receive item 7E and refer to Industrial and Community Development. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor Manning Martin. Councilors, you've heard the motion on the motion. Councilor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Councilor Manning Martin. Allison, can we set up a meeting sometime in March for subcommittee, please? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Gould. Any other councilors on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Manning Martin.
Thank you. Under suspension of the rules, motion to receive item 8H to receive and approve all the attached executive session minutes. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor Manning Martin. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Manning Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On another matter, I received calls from members of our retirement community inquiring if the council will explore a recent change in the COLA, cost of living adjustment for retirees, that has passed recently, that many communities have adopted. So what I'd like to do is I will submit this document that I received from the retirement community. I'll give it to Allison, and refer the matter. I'd like to, with a co-motion with Councilor Gould, make a co-motion to send it to Finance and request the presence of Jim Freeman, the pension administrator, and also the Director of Finance, Mike Gingrich, to give us a presentation and an update on this, on the status of this, so that the council can be educated as to what the change in the law was, where we stand on our COLA benefits, and what action the council would like to take. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor Manning Martin. On the motion, Councilor McGinn.
Thank you. Through you to Councilor Manning Martin. I just want to be clear on the motion. Are we sending it to retirement and finance and the Director of Finance first for an opinion so that we can receive that and send it to Finance, or do you want to go right to Finance? When we did, the last time we dealt with one of these, it was fairly complex. So I just, my suggestion would be to send it to them first, give us something to receive and review and send to Finance, rather than to try to do it in one fell swoop.
Well, okay, but we can get the information, discuss it at Finance. We don't have to take action. And if we need it to germinate a little bit, we can discuss it then. I'll leave it to you. I'm going to refer the matter as made to you. If you want to seek out information and schedule it after getting that information, you know, it doesn't have to be in 2 weeks. It could be next month. I'm just going to give the information that I have. You can get that, and if you want to seek out information from them in advance to prepare for the meeting, that's fine, and then we can do it then.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, it wasn't to seek out information for myself personally. It was to seek out information for the entire council. So,
I understand. I understand that. Yeah. So, of course, that's why I'm sending it to committee,
so
that the whole council can. So the whole council can discuss it. So I'm just referring the matter to you in Finance, and you're the chair of Finance, and you can handle the matter in whatever way you choose to discuss it with the council. I expect nothing less. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Manning Martin. On the motion, any other discussion? Seeing none, councilors, you've heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Manning Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know that we had received recently a lot of license renewals, and I know that we had referred this matter to the clerk to address this, and also to the building commissioner to assist us and give us guidance in cleaning this matter up. So I know we've made some progress. So I guess through you, Mr. Chairman, to the clerk, could you advise us as to where we stand and let the council know what next steps you need from us to continue this progress? So, please.
Could I just get a vote to, a motion to receive the item first, so we can get it to the clerk?
This item?
8J.
Jay.
Thank you, Councilor Manning Martin. Councilors, you've heard the motion. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed, it's a vote. Clerk Danforth.
Councilor Manning Martin, I'm not sure if you want me to go through each category and give you a status update where we are on this. I'm not. I'm happy to go through it if the council wants to go through it in detail, right here and now.
Is it lengthy, or would you
Well,
need?
no, but
would you need
everything-
more time?
Nope, I mean, I can tell you briefly on the categories that I have listed, what's outstanding.
Sure, that sounds great. Thank you for the work.
So the Class 2 motor vehicle licenses, we have 6 licenses that are outstanding. They have all received return receipt certified letters with their due date to get back to me, and so far, not all the dates have expired, but I have heard back from 2 license holders who are trying to transfer their licenses to other people. So after the expiration date of the other deadlines, I will come to the council and request revocation if I don't hear from them.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And revocation, we also have, also could issue fines could we issue fines and/or revocation?
I have sent numerous letters, emails. I'm getting no response from most of these people. I know at least one of them not even located at that address anymore, so they're unable to renew.
And I only ask that because I don't know the process. Is there a step to fine before we get to revocation? I ask that because I do not know the answer. I'm trying to give you the tools necessary to clean this up.
Their licenses expired on December 31st, and so they technically aren't license holders, but we do give them a grace period. But if I can't even get people to contact me.
Okay.
So I would probably come back in about a month and ask if I continue not to hear from these individuals, then I would ask the council for a revocation, which we've done in the past.
Please do so. I'm sure the council will follow your recommendation, and we appreciate the work that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. You'd like me to continue with the entertainment licenses? So we have 2 entertainment licenses that are outstanding. The Outback, which hasn't renewed since 2021, and Stanzi's at 1 Main Street. If the council would like to move forward with a fine or I don't think I can do any more than we've done to try to get them to comply.
So, I'm sorry, how long have they been out?
Well, Outback hasn't had a renewal since 2021, and Stanzi's has been out since December 31st.
This year?
Last
30,
year.
oh, the same. So what is the fine?
It's
What are our options for fines? As with the show cause, we had 200 and 300.
I don't think there's anything set in the ordinance for the fine. I know the maximum is $300.
Okay, I make a motion to fine them both $300. So moved.
Councilors, you've heard the motion. On the motion, Councilor Rosendahl, then Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to Councilor Manning Martin. In my opinion, where Outback is 2 years delinquent versus Stanzi's 2 months delinquent, I don't know if the fines are equal.
Thank you for pointing that out. I thought they were the same year. I misunderstood. So Right, okay, so, thank you. I withdraw that motion, $200 fine for the Outback, and I don't, send a warning? You've already sent a warning to, I thought the limit was 200. The president was giving, will you just give me a peace sign?
I was referencing the last fines that we just went over. The maximum was 200. We made that correction. So when you were asking what the last fine was, it was, I'll throw you a peace sign too, but in this case, it was 200.
All right, so $300 fine for Outback and a $200 fine for Stanzies. So moved.
Councilors on the motion. Any discussion? Councilor McGinn?
Yeah, I guess my point was the same as Councilor Rosignol's. I can definitely see the stiff fine for the Outback. Stanzies, I don't see it. So if it's going to be one motion, I probably won't support the motion. If you were
No problem, I'll separate them. I thought I should have separated them anyway. So, first motion, $300 fine for the Outback, so moved.
Councilors, you've heard the motion. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote.
It's a roll call.
Roll call, excuse me, roll call vote.
Councilors Daigle.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Thank you, Councilor Manning Martin.
And considering the good input from my colleagues, I'm going to change the fine to $100 for Stanzies, so moved.
Councilors, you've heard the motion. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilors Daigle.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Gould.
No.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Welton.
No.
Motion carries 8-2.
Councilor Manning Martin?
Is the clerk done with her list?
Oh, she is not.
Wish she was. I wish
I wish she was
I wish
as
people
well.
were following the rules, but please
Thank you, Councilor
continue.
Manning Martin. Clerk Danforth, thank you.
So my next two are general licenses. One's for a lodging house license to WJ Scores, and they have been due and owing for a fire inspection. I have their application, I've received their money, but they have not gotten their fire inspection. And so their application is on hold with me until I get approval from the fire department.
Councilor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to Clerk Danforth. What's that address, please?
59 Walnut Street.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gould. Clerk Danforth, do we have additional outstanding? I apologize, Clerk Danforth. Councilor Rossignol.
So how can we remedy that situation and have the fire department go out there and inspect this property to make sure that it's safe?
Yeah.
So, my opinion is if we can't deem the building safe by the fire department, then why are we letting occupants in it? So, my opinion, we should revoke their special permit, or, I'm sorry, revoke their license until they can get the fire inspection, so they'll make sure that it's up to code. To me, that just makes sense. We're talking about public safety.
Thank you, Councilor Rossignol. Councilor Melville.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the clerk, is this a matter of they need their inspection, or this is their annual inspection, or is this they've never been inspected?
Well, they've been around for a while. They have been inspected.
Okay.
I don't know if it's an annual inspection. I
So-
send a request to the fire department,
Yeah.
and they just tell me that they're doing a owing.
Thank you. It's not so, especially with some of these other licenses, they are required by state law to get their annual inspections. As long as they file their annual inspection, typically it's just a matter of a scheduling issue. I don't know if we want to, the clerk has indicated that they do have an application on file. It's a matter of the scheduling the actual inspection, correct? Is that, I think that, based on what you said, that's what I took from it.
They haven't had an inspection. I don't know what the holdup is. I don't know if,
But through, but they did file their actual, you did receive their fee.
filed an application with me,
Filed an
yes.
application fee, which is different from the others that we're dealing with tonight. I just don't want to go down the path of starting I don't think we should start any revocation process tonight. We're doing the fines and dealing with the people that haven't renewed in the last couple of years. So my suggestion is if we want to make a motion, just ask the fire department, and I'd do this based on whatever councilors and any other thoughts, but we'd make a motion, ask the fire department to act on that as soon as possible. And if it is the actual applicant not doing what they need to do to get the inspection, to let us know so that then action can be taken. But that would be my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Melville. And on that, I echo what you're saying, and I think also we need to consider that there's people that are living in that residence currently. So I wouldn't want to necessarily move forward with a revocation process without a thorough plan for what's next. So, Councilor Rosenau.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was unsure what City Clerk Danforth meant as far as the application process. I didn't think that they actually even attempted to put it into the fire department. So I agree with Councilor Melville that we just need to reach out to the fire department and have them try to expedite their inspection as soon as possible.
Thank you, Councilor Rosenau. Do you want to make that in the form of a motion?
So moved.
Councilors, you've heard the motion. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. We're still with Councilor Manning Martin and Clerk Danforth for the updated list. Clerk Danforth.
So the next general license that's due and owing is an outdoor dining license from Farm Street Realty Group for 2 Washington Street. That was a license that the council approved. I haven't heard from them. I haven't gotten an application. However, I do know that Kurt Bellavance has been working on outdoor licenses, and I think we're just waiting on that application process, but for some reason, they went ahead and got a license through the council.
Just
Councilor Rosenau, then Councilor Daigle.
I'm going to recuse myself from this matter and step out of the room for conflict of interest reasons. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Daigle. Councilor Rosenau.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to Ms. Danforth. So are all outdoor licenses, I guess this is a good time to have this discussion, well, it's snowing out, in preparation for spring and summer. Are all outdoor licenses going through the mayor's office?
All other outdoor licenses have been going through the mayor's office. For some reason, Farm Street Realty Group wanted to go through the council and get their outdoor license.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. There was a zoning provision for establishments in the BC that brought them into that process. You know, it's clear in the conditions that they need to renew annually, excuse me. However, you know, I think we're all very much aware they're not even open yet, and they won't be for several months. So I think, given this is very much been a work in process and it's kind of a unique situation, I think a reminder to them would be appropriate rather than taking any kind of punitive action at this point. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. Any other councilors on this matter? All right, moving forward, Clerk Danforth, and I'll go grab Councilor Daigle.
So the next non-renewal was one of the non-city taxi cab licenses. I actually had 2, but one of them came in this week. And so the only one outstanding is Americab, and they last renewed in 2020. They're located in Salem, but it's non-city.
are they operating but have no license? We don't even know if they're operating for the last 2 years? I'll defer to Council Melville.
Councilor Melville.
Well, since and I thank you, Councilor Manning Martin, but since they haven't renewed, they're not a licensee, maybe we just notify the police department that this is no longer an active taxi cab in Peabody.
And if I may, send notice to them as well. Nice knowing you.
Yeah, seriously.
All right. Do you need that in the form of a motion? So moved.
I believe to recap, the motion was to notify the police department that this taxi cab is no longer operating with a license, and also to send notice to the former licensee that we are no longer recognizing their license. And also to include that notice to the police department. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Clerk Danforth.
So the last license is an entertainment license for Cuisinas that moved up to 134 Newbury Street sometime last year, and they have not applied for a new license at their new establishment.
Councilor Gamache.
Did they carry their license over from the previous address that they, because they've been out of business at that location at 15 Newbury Street for years? So did they have the old license on file, or they have to file a new license?
They don't have a license,
Okay, so,
and they have been notified many times that they need to apply for a new license at the new location.
okay. On that?
Councilor Gamache.
When's the last time they sent notification to the Cuisinas through you to the clerk?
I don't have their file in front of me.
Okay, I request that one more notification go out, and that if it's not before this council by March 31st, that we pull whatever entertainment they have. They're not supposed to have any entertainment. Okay, I'll go speak to Penny and talk to her and make sure she gets in there. Okay, thank you.
Just to clarify, Councilor Gamache, was that in the way of a motion? Okay. Councilors, you've heard the motion. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote.
Thank you, councilors.
Thank you, Clerk Danforth. Councilor Manning Martin.
Thank you very much, and I want to thank you, Clerk Danforth, for all the effort you have put in, and this council is here to assist you in getting people to abide by the laws that we place, and you're enforcing them. So that's what this whole practice tonight was all about. So we're getting closer, and I think we're sending a message, and hopefully it will resonate with businesses in the city that they need to renew and apply and follow the rules of the business community, just as those that have been and always do. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Manning Martin. Anything else this evening?
Oh, I've said enough. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Manning Martin. Councilor Gould.
Motions, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Gould. Councilor Rossignol.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to receive and approve all papers being in order. Item 9G. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor Rossignol. Councilors, you've heard the motion. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Rossignol.
Thank you, Mr. President. Was 9C done? Make a motion to receive and approve all papers being in order. Class 2 motor vehicle licenses, 2023 removals for Elite Motor, North Shore Automotive, and Tri-State Auto Sales. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor Rossignol. Councilors, you've heard the motion. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Rossignol.
Thank you, Mr. President. No further motions.
Councilor Rossignol. Councilor Gamache.
Yes, this is going to be a co-motion with Councilors Daigle and Turco. Move to place in the Municipal Safety Committee a request from a resident, Kevin Coleman, to seek to have not a throughway signs placed in the Brooksby Farm area, specifically on Felton at Prospect, Mount Pleasant at Andover, which is 114, and Baldwin at Lowell Street. Also request Captain Richards to be present to make sure that this is feasible. And that would go to public safety, municipal safety. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor Gamache. Councilors, you've heard the motion. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Gamache.
Suspension of the rules, item 8A, 180 Newbury Street, special permit application, move to set up a public hearing.
Thank you, Councilor Gamache. Councilors, you've heard the motion. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Gamache.
Item 8I, Class 2 motor vehicle license, 80 Newbury Street. Is this a new license, or is this a transfer of license?
This is a revocation of a license.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Excuse me.
Okay. Did we just go through that, or is this a new one? Okay. What's the name of the business?
This is Morco Enterprises, DBA JRM Auto Sales.
JRM, huh? Okay. When's the last correspondence we had received from them?
I spoke with Mr. Morneau, and he came
Morneau,
into the
yeah.
office and he signed away his rights.
So he doesn't want it
he's
anymore?
Correct.
Okay, I would move at this time to revoke the license, the Class 2 motor vehicle license from Mr. Morneau at 80 Newbury Street. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor Gamache. Councilors, you've heard the motion. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Gamache.
Yes, at this time I move approval on under suspension of rules, item 9A, taxi limo driver's license, Scott Boyle, license 21. Move approval, all papers being in order.
Thank you, Councilor Gamache. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Gamache.
Entertainment license 2023 renewal, AOH Division, Grecian Diner and Tavern, Jade's Restaurant, Patty Kelly's, Sue Chang's, Tony C's, Trackside Bar and Grill, VFW, Fidelity Post 1011, Wadhurst. Move approval, all papers being in order.
Thank you, Councilor Gamache. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Gamache.
Suspension of the rules, item 9D, entertainment license new. Athaki Restaurant and Bistro, 1A Newbury Street, Marco's Pizzeria, 47 Newbury Street. They have to set up a public hearing.
Yep. So on the motion to receive and set up a public hearing.
Yes.
Correct? Yep. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Gamache.
Under suspension rules, 9F, taxi cab license transfer, Sunshine Car Service, 153 Newbury Street, license 37 and 38. Move approval, all papers being in order.
Thank you, Councilor Gamache. Councilors, you've heard the motion. On the motion, Councilor McGinn.
That's we don't need a hearing for that. Thank you.
Not a transfer, yeah.
Thank you.
This one we will. Under suspension rules, 9H.
Councilor Gamache, we didn't finalize that because
okay,
he
I'm
had a
sorry.
comment on that.
Yeah.
So all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Thank you, Councilor Gamache.
Under suspension rules, 9H, limousine license, new, Sunshine Car Services, 153 Newbury Street. Set up a public hearing.
Thank you, Councilor Gamache. Councilors, you've heard the motion. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Gamache.
No further motions, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gamache. Councilor Melville.
Under suspension of the rules, I'd make a motion to receive item 8G, the municipal election calendar. Receive and approve.
Receive and
So
approve.
moved.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor Melville. Councilors, you've heard the motion. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Melville.
That would be it from me this evening. I just wanted to say thank you, Allison, for the license process. And I know we did refer to legal affairs, a discussion on the entertainment license and the, what the cost benefit analysis is going to be of that. So I think once we talk about that, we can maybe and any suggestions that you would have for any other licenses and any improvements, please include those. Your thoughts and the thoughts of your staff would be important in that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Melville. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. On suspension of the rules, move to receive item 7A and refer to finance. So moved.
Councilor McGinn. Councilors, you've heard the motion. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. On suspension of the rules, move to receive item 7B and refer to finance. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. Councilors, you've heard the motion. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. On suspension of the rules, move to receive item 7F and refer to finance. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. On suspension of the rules, move to receive item 10A and adopt as advertised. Mr. President, on the motion, councilors will remember this is the bond order for $2.8 million. That was $1.15 million for the public safety facility feasibility preliminary design, $650,000 for the Endicott Street Bridge repair, and $1 million for the Central Street easements and design.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn, and thank you for that clarification. On this motion, we're going to do a roll call vote.
Councilors Daigle.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville. Yes. McGinn.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. No further motions, just a question for the clerk, I guess. On item 8B, that was formally received tonight. That was the letter from the Board of Health regarding Project 2015A that Councilor Peach received. There was going to be a letter. Councilor Peach mentioned that the council has endorsed that. I just didn't know if the letter has gone out yet.
Yes, it has, Councilor.
Great. Could we get a copy of the letter in the next package? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. Anything else? You're good? All right. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All right. Thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote.